Chapter 161. I walk deeper into the cave I've been hollowing out for hours with a newfound spring in my step. After my small study break, up on that ledge, it seems like I have a new tactic to try out. Instead of trying to cram as much power into an attack as possible, what if I make it as thin as possible? It's not like I'm trying to break through a high-density mana barrier or some unbreakable armor. These are just dungeon boulders. With enough hits, I could probably crumble them with my bare hands. I let out a chuckle as I near the end of the cave. Now, let's try something new. Using up just one MP potion, I charge my blade with about 2,500 mana points while activating my stat boosting and perception skills. It glows and flickers, ready to let out its full power. I focus on creating as thin of an attack as possible. With less mana in the strike, I'm able to make it much denser than before. I swing my blade at the wall and a thin crescent of mana-imbued fire magic comes out. I eagerly watch as the energy slams against the cave wall with a loud crack, blowing rocks and dust in all directions just like my last few dozen attempts. Taking out another MP potion, I try again. Concentrating harder this time, glowing golden red. I manage to condense the mana even further down in my blade before letting it soar. Rocks fly in all directions as I reach for another MP potion to try it all again. I throw denser and denser attacks at the wall until I've hit my limit. After drinking 9 potions in total, throwing all of these attacks in under 15 minutes, and still making no progress, I set out a long sigh. There's definitely still something missing. Sliding down the side of the cave wall, I let my sword fall to the ground with a light clang and put out my flames to sit in darkness. Turning to my side to look at the faint white light shining in from afar. My joints still ache, my back is prickling with a sharp pain, and my legs are begging me not to stand up again. I've nearly hit my limit. There's no way I'm making it all the way through this cave today. Sitting in silence, looking down at the cave floor that will turn back into a solid mountain once I leave today, a curious thought comes to mind. I mumble under my breath. Mana. It's all just mana. I stand to my feet, trying to finish connecting the dots in my head about this new epiphany. I'm not trying to cut through something like a solid object back in the outside world. I'm just trying to cut through a mana shield. These walls may look and feel like rock, but is really just a low-grade mana shield in its simplest form. If I hit it too hard, with too much energy, everything is thrown out of whack. Grinning, I drink another potion and grip my sword, letting it glow light red. I charge just 100 MP into the weapon and condense this small amount of mana into a very dense attack. Using my perception skill while managing the flow of mana in my blade, I focus on all of the rocks surrounding me. The more mana an object or creature in a dungeon contains, oftentimes the more densely filled they are with that mana. I attempt to match the exact density of my attack to the surrounding rocks. What I've found in doing so is that this dungeon material lines up in perfectly symmetrical patterns. I begin to glow brighter as I use up most of my MP on my all-seeing eye other than focusing entirely on the strike. Unlike moving monsters with more complex systems, this rock is just sitting still. The mana is consistent and systematic. The deeper I gaze into its grid-like pattern, the more simple this low-grade mana shield becomes. After burning through over 1,500 MP in just a few seconds looking deep into my surroundings, the low hum of the dungeon rock all around becomes much more clear. It's all vibrating at a similar frequency. I let out another whisper under my breath. This is it. I've never taken the time to examine a rock so closely in my life. It seems my curiosity has paid off. I grin, pointing my dimly glowing blade at a 2M high boulder that flew off the wall in one of my previous attacks. With a swift motion of my sword, I let my attack soar. A flickering red and black slash comes out, so thin it almost looks clear. Gliding through the air in silence, it makes contact with the large rock. Passes right through without a sound. It's just like Fisher's attack. Almost. It moves through the boulder in front of me with ease, but explodes into a fiery mess on the rock wall behind it. Letting out a laugh and throwing my sword high in the air to celebrate my first successful bit of progress, the boulder splits in half right down the middle. A wide grin creeps across my face as I walk over to examine my job well done. I reach down to take a look at my work. My fingertips glide over the surface of the rock, and the grin on my face slowly fades. It looks smooth at first glance, but small bumps cover its surface, creating a coarse sandpaper feel to it. I thought I did it, but apparently not. All these small impurities begin to eat away at the back of my mind. If I want to get anywhere near that mirror-like finish that Fisher created with his flash from over 200 m away, I have some serious work to do. Just like when I trained to increase the amount of mana I can control, now I'll have to practice something new. After drinking another MP potion, I activate my perception skill again and take in the vastness of my rock wall surroundings. Condensing my mana and matching its low humming frequency to the microscopic grid-like mana patterns, I let another attack fly at a nearby boulder. The same result occurs. The stone splits in two, but my slash erupts into a ball of fire as it hits the rock wall behind it. I try again and again. Over the next hour, I continue burning through another 20 MP potions. My breathing is heavy, sweat soaks my shirt, and the MP exhaustion has gotten much worse. Overstressing my perception skill is starting to give me a serious headache. My whole body feels weak, tingling, and on the verge of collapse. I throw my last attack at a nearby boulder. I've already mentally decided to take a long break after this one, so put my all into it. Watching the highly condensed 100 MP slash float through the air in silence. It phases through the large stone, then surprisingly keeps going through the wall. The corners of my lips begin to turn as I realize I've made it to the next level of this meticulous process. Moments later, I hear an explosion, and fragments of stone come flying out of the wall towards me in a ball of flames. With a grin across my face, I slide down the side of the cave wall yet again. The moment I hit the ground, both sides of the boulder I slice do as well. Some of the excess fire residue from the explosion reflects off the glossy surface of the freshly cut stone. Letting out a long sigh of relief, I throw my sword back into item storage while picking myself up off the hard ground with a tired grunt. I feel the surface of the stone. It's smooth, nowhere near as perfect as Fisher's attack, but this is very smooth. Using the remaining stores of my MP, I activate my all-seeing eye. Light swirls of pink and white mana seep out from microscopic cracks in the rock, but most of it is well contained. It looks like an old mana shield that's leaking small amounts of energy. I manage to replicate Fisher's strike. I smirk. Not bad. This is quite a good start. I walk out of the cave with a bright smile across my face. After using up about 200 KMP in the last few hours, the number one thing on my mind is food. The second is sleep. As I begin walking back, in the direction of the inn, my bones creak and my muscles ache, but a third thought keeps itching at the back of my head. I wonder how this new technique I'm learning would fare against one of those berserkers on floor 19? Soon I'll have to find out. Chapter 162. While pondering the idea of using this new technique against those berserkers on floor 19, I make my way back to the inn. Opening up the front door with a creak, I walk inside to see the usual crowd. Just under a dozen hunters split up into a few parties, all sitting around circular tables enjoying food and drink. I spot the blue and red-haired duo on the exact same table we ate breakfast at this morning. As I begin to walk over, Ryland spots me at the door. Back so soon? What happened? You gave up already? It's been less than 4 hours. You couldn't have finished your training already. That's impossible. I wave and give him a tired smile. Not done yet. Just taking a break. My footsteps are heavy, making awkward clunking sounds as I walk over to the table of two. Mr. Conway spots me on the way over and shouts out from the back. Hey! The new elite just returned from his first day of training. How'd it go? A few heads turn from the various hunters I pass by on my way to the back of the room, but I'm too third to pay them any mind. Good, fine. Food would be great. He smirks, giving me a firm nod. Take a seat. It'll be out before you know it. I nod, giving the kind old man another thin smile, then take a seat. Fisher waves to the innkeeper, motioning for him to add 2 more people to that food order, then turns to me. Finally, he speaks up with a stern look on his face. You're back too early. What happened? I reply. Way too much mana. I used too much mana. That's all, I'll be back out there tomorrow. It's true. I thought I could handle more than this. I've burned through hundreds of thousands of MP per day in the past. That was in a much different environment though. It seems I do have limits. Fisher nods. Yeah. It's better to take it slow and concentrate on as much as you can on each attack. I'm sure you've learned at least that much so far. I reply. Blowing a hole through this mountain isn't the goal. It's letting the cut fly through the mountain itself that I'm really after. A wide grin shows on Fisher's face as he gets up, pointing at Rylan. Haha. 10 silver, hand it over. I knew he'd figure it out. The redhead's face starts to match his hair color as he replies. Hey, no way. It was like 3 hours or maybe 4 tops. That's impossible. You must have told him when I wasn't looking. He looks at me with a flustered expression. I shrug, not knowing exactly what all the fuss is about. Fisher eyes Rylan up and down. Then the redhead reaches into his item box to place a handful of silver on the table. Fine, here you go. You won fair and square. I guess Jay did figure out the purpose of this training on day 1. Now we'll just see if he can pull it all together. I throw my hands up in the air. Hey, I still need another day or so. I'm still getting used to all of this. As both C-classes begin to respond, Mr. Conway comes over with plates of food and drinks in both hands. I dig in, boys. Using self-regeneration after every bite, I recover a lot more. All my aches and pains begin to fade slightly once most of my plates are cleaned. I feel nearly 50% healed. Any more food or mana usage would just have diminishing retunes. A good night of sleep is the only thing I know of that can help me now. Fisher, taking his meal much slower, watches me with amusement. After 10 minutes or so, he speaks up. So, was it a lucky guess? Or are you actually able to sense the frequency of mana on that rock wall? I gulp down a bite of food and respond. A bit of both. I've never thought about a technique like this before. It's like I was slicing through the area between mana particles. Fisher grins. You're right. Don't get too cocky though. Dungeon mass like this is one of the most simple forms mana can take. Facing a real enemy with honed mana control is a whole different story. I nod. It's a good start. He takes a gulp of his drink. It is. We finish up our meal without much more conversation. I'm deep in thought, thinking about how I'll improve this new skill tomorrow. Rylan is busy talking Fisher's ear off, and the blue-haired swordsman is replying in simple responses. Since this morning his mood has definitely shifted. Something new is on his mind. I'm not one to pry, so I decide not to bring it up. The blue-haired elite stands up to address both of us once our meals are finished. Well, Jay, great first day of training. It seems you're on the right track. Rylan, you're an excellent time waster. He cracks a smile as the redhead tries to reply, but he's cut off immediately. I'll be off to my room for the rest of the day. Jay, I assume you'll need your rest as well. First thing tomorrow we'll meet for training. I'd like to see an update on your progress once you're fully healed. I'll see you in 10 hours, that work? I nod as he immediately turns to leave up the wooden stairs behind us. His math is definitely off and it's messing with my sleep schedule. 10 hours from now is not morning, but I'll manage. In fact, it may just be perfect. Sounds good. Rylan turns to me. Well, I better be off too. I just got word a new party from the C-class exams is coming up soon. It's their first time in the labyrinth. Wouldn't hurt to greet them. He hops up from his chair and skips to the door, leaving me alone at my table. I let out a sigh, sit around for a few minutes, then make my way back to my room. I'm pretty exhausted. Hopefully, I'll be healed up enough for some more training in a few hours. The faster I manage to learn this new skill, the faster I'll have the chance to face off against those berserkers. I walk upstairs to my small dusty room and fall asleep almost instantly once I hit the soft bedding. A few hours go by, and my dreams are filled with ideas on how to improve my attack. That last slash I threw was a breakthrough. I need to keep improving on that. Nearly 5 hours pass. My restless sleep has hit its limit. My body is healed enough, and my mind won't quit coming up with theory after theory that needs to be tested. That's it. I'm going back out there. After my night of sleep, which felt more like a long nap to me, I crawl out of bed and make my way to my door. I make sure it's locked, then teleport out of the inn. In the blink of an eye, I'm back, staring at the large stone wall. It seems as though this portion of the dungeon has already regenerated. It's been over 8 hours since my training session began, so I guess Fisher's estimation was right. I stretch out my arms and legs. I'm mostly healed up, but still a bit stiff. I won't be releasing any large-scale attacks, so this session will be much easier on my body. I take a fresh potion out of my storage and get to work. Today I'll be upping the ante. I begin to glow gold and red while activating my all-seeing eye, peering into the flat stone cliff in front of me. To my surprise, the insides of the mountain are still hollowed and smashed to bits in the deeper areas. Still healing up from my assaults. I focus harder while imbuing my sword with under 100 MP. Aligning the low humming frequency of the wall before me with my blade is near impossible to do perfectly. I got close once, so I can do it again. I let the first thin black blade of flames fly at the wall, and my new training session begins. It pierces through without a sound, gliding in just like intended. Less than a second later, chunks of stone fly off in all directions. I grit my teeth, but a smirk creeps through as I charge up my blade again. Over the next 2 hours, I continuously throw attacks at the wall, improving my concentration, and becoming more and more in tune with the low hum resonating from the cliff face. I burn through 50k MP. It's mostly just from my perception skill. Having it activated for long periods of time is costly, but it's worth it in this case. I'm able to let out just over 40 attacks, improving slowly and steadily each time. The thin black blades released from my sword glide through the rock face with no resistance whatsoever. Not even a trace of an entrance hole is visible. At first, they would glide in and explode within the first few meters of entry. Now, I'm able to stabilize the mana enough to penetrate the rock face over 30 meters on my last attempt. Each time, it still detonates deep within the mountain. Satisfied with my improvements so far, I turn to one of the small excess boulders lying around from my earlier less practiced run-throughs. I focus, then let out an attack. It flies through the rock, then disappears into the side of the mountain behind it as well. As I hear the explosion deep within the rock face, the boulder before splits in two simultaneously. I grin ear to ear in the reflection of the sliced stone. Excitedly, I whisper under my breath, "Now, I need to try this out on a moving target." I have more than enough time before Fisher wakes up, and all this fine-tuned technical training is making me antsy. Sure, it's cool to see some progress, but what's progress good for if I can't use it in a fight? The glossy surface of this boulder I just sliced through is nearly identical to the texture of the strike the elite made on that cliff's overhang. I decide it's time for me to put this new skill to some good use. It'd be a shame to put all this free mana to waste, just slashing away at a mountain. I smirk, gripping my sword and igniting it into flames. It's time to go back to floor 19. Dungeon Walker. Chapter 163. I'm back on the 19th floor with one thing on my mind. I need to find a strong opponent to test this new ability on. I activate enemy detection and inspect to begin taking a look around for a berserker to test out my new mana control technique on. Every 1 kilometer or so, there's a level 400 to 405 hiding deep whiting the dungeon. The black hills, valleys, caves, and mazes fill my senses as I search. Finally, a reading that catches my eye pops up. 1250 M. LV. 408. A level 408. Immediately, I lock onto this familiar reading and dungeon walk back to the square-shaped black arena that I know so well. Drawing my sword and igniting my body and weapon into flames, I prepare for our second battle. A 4M tall red-skinned berserker giant stands in the open air with its long silver sword winging back and forth, mindlessly staring up at the sky. It's exactly the same as the last one I fought. The area destroyed from our previous fight is completely renewed as well. It looks like more than just dungeon mass respawns after a certain period of time. The manically smiling green-eyed monster turns its gaze toward me just moments after I appear. Just like that, we begin. It plants its back legs and begins darting toward me while glowing with the red aura of a berserker skill activating. I grin, putting off a red and gold glow myself and charging up my blade. Last time I faced this beast, I used both of my weapons at full blast. I was able to slowly chip away at its defenses because of my attack's pure destructive power, but I'd like to win things a bit differently this time around if possible. I activate my all-seeing eye. The pink and white swirls of mana around me begin to fill my vision. The crystal-like black rock structures glow brightly with a similar grid pattern that the rocks on the 10th floor showed off. They're just much tighter grid lines, closer together, and vibrating at a much higher frequency. I move my gaze to the fast-moving berserker coming my way. Its silver-colored light armor pieces give off a dense mana reading too. Again, it's similar to the stones and crystal-like structures around me, just much tighter knit threads of energy creating an almost microscopic grid in my mind's eye. Perfect. Grinning, I focus my attention on the charging monster's chest plate. Burning through an entire MP potion in a matter of seconds, I visualize every last mana particle in the monster's armor. The green-eyed fiend cracks the ground with every step it takes. I drink another MP potion to prepare my attack. Charging up just 100 MP, I burn through another full potion just to get near matching this new ultra-thin level of mana control. My body shakes, and I grit my teeth as I grip my blade tight, attempting to line up the perfect attack. Now it's within range, but I am too. Dungeon Walker. I teleport to the opposite side of the monster and let my strike soar. It's thin, with a black tint, letting out light red flickers of flames as it rips through the air toward the solid metal plate of armor covering its back. My attack makes contact with the oblivious battle-hungry beast. I grin as I watch my strike disappear momentarily into the back of its armor. Fractions of a second later, I see a flash of white light and a small explosion of flames. Gritting my teeth and letting out a frustrated grunt, I air-step upwards to get out of rage before it gets too mad. When the fire and dust clears, I'm not too disappointed with the results of my first attempt. There's a huge chunk of metal missing from the top half of its backside's armor. It seems like no actual damage was done to the berserker itself, but with just 100 MP, I managed to break its armor that much. I smirk, air-stepping back down to the ground about 30 m away from the berserker. I drink another potion and prepare my next attack. This time around, I'll try to add even more mana to the blade. The monster turns to me, locking its sharp green eyes on my blade. It's glowing red with 250 MP worth of charge. At this level of precision, it's much harder to manage this much mana and keep it stable at an exact hairline width and perfect frequency. My arms shake as I grip my blade, burning through copious amounts of MP on my perception skill to hold the concentration. Even of a fraction of a second slip-up makes for an entirely different attack. I teleport to the now charging berserker's blind spot and let my attack soar. I land the hit. The thin black flaming blade slips through its armor. Then a flash of white light triggers a fiery explosion, just like last time. Thankfully, I'm fighting at a much closer range this time around. The beast doesn't have much time to dodge. Even if it could, I'm not sure it would. As the flames and dust begin to clear, I hear the clanging of metal on stone. The red-skinned menace turns to me holding its long silver sword while its armor falls to the dungeon floor in pieces. I cut through its chest plate with that attack. Parts of the metal are sliced cleanly in two, showing off a glossy texture, just like the boulders I cut through earlier. Unfortunately, the monster is completely unharmed. There isn't a single scratch on its skin. The rippling muscles and bulging veins are untouched by my two attacks so far. It shows me a wide, toothy grin, then charges forward like the mindless battle junkie it is. I do the same, chugging an MP potion and charging up my blade for another attack. I get ready for the next phase of this fight. When I try to get a reading on the fast-moving monster skin, it seems to be pretty weak. If anything, it's even less dense than the rocks down on floor 10. This all seems way too good to be true. Even its sword isn't much denser than the armor I just cut to pieces. I must be missing something. I dungeon walk to its blind spot and prepare for my next move. Imbuing a full 250 MP into my sword again, I match up all of the necessary mana readings, similar to my previous strike, then let my attack fly. The thin black blade of mana rips through the air toward the monster's open back. It jerks its head to the side moments before impact, and I watch an interesting interaction of mana particles take place. My attack bounces off the creature's back with only the tiny white glow of excess energy being released. Fractions of a second before impact, an incredibly dense layer of mana seeps out of the creature's skin, almost like a bodysuit made of pure mana. This is the mana control skill Fisher was talking about.
Mana shielding.
I smirk, getting ready for more as the menace walks toward me, licking its lips and glowing crimson red. I charge up another attack with 250 MP. I'm curious about one more thing. Its sword comes running in at full speed as I throw another black crescent of energy its way. With a swift swing of that sliver sword, I watch my attack get deflected far off into the distance. The same thin layer of mana covered its blade the moment it needed to deflect my strike. I remember back to the last Berserker I fought, and when I appraised its sword. Berserker Giant's long sword, blood-bonded plus 1000 attack plus 500 agility. This blood-bonded perk must be similar to the bonding between an element stone and a sword like mine. It's an extension of the mana user, that's how it's able to use the technique on its weapons as well. I grit my teeth and dungeon walk away the moment my attack is deflected. I'll have to try a new plan. I start charging up another one just shy of 100 MP. It's low power, but I'm able to send these attacks off very quickly. This is exactly what I do with a burst of rapid-fire attacks. I begin dungeon walking around the battle-hungry monster, throwing attack after attack at it. I'm not trying to do any actual damage just yet. I just need to get a better reading on its mana shield's exact density and mana frequency levels. It usually only activates for a fraction of a second after each one of my attacks. This isn't nearly enough time to mimic it. After close to 30 attacks, I feel like I've finally gotten a close enough reading. Burning through just over 4 more MP potions, I've finally got a feeling for this monster's mana shield readings. Unfortunately, just knowing it isn't going to cut it. The tightly wound mana particles create a thin, nearly indestructible defense lining this Berserker. The levels are far beyond any rock wall, or even its armor I destroyed earlier. I airstep down to face off against my test subject. It's getting thoroughly annoyed. All this beast wants is a good fight, and all I'm giving it are weak attacks thrown from a distance. This time around, it'll give it what it's asking for. I use up 2 MP potions as it runs in toward me. I close my eyes and picture the dense layers of impossibly small grid-like mana particles it spawns every time my attack comes near its skin. Gripping my blade tightly, I attempt to match its levels of mana readers, but after 10 seconds the monster is drawing too near and my efforts are starting to seem futile. I let out a frustrated grunt, releasing the attack, knowing it's not even a quarter of the thinness required to pierce its barrier, not to mention nowhere near enough power either. I dungeon walk far away to its opposite side as it deflects my attack with ease using its sword, then runs by my previous position like a raging bull. I attempt to charge up another attack, watching closely as the monster turns to run toward me again from the far side of the square-shaped arena. I have 20 seconds or so to prepare this time. I concentrate hard, barely using 100 MP, attempting to match its mana shielding frequency with all my might. I'm putting my all into this. With my hands shaking and head aching, I still create a blade way too thick to puncture its shielding and nowhere near enough pure mana to get close to the density required to make any damage. As it nears, I let out a yell of frustration, chucking the attack forward and dungeon walking away as it swings its silver sword to send my black blade of flames soaring off into the gray sky. Clenching my jaw, I try again, from even further away. I airstrip backward to keep my distance and charge up for a full 40 seconds. At the end of the charge, my brain feels like mush from focusing so hard on a single point, my hands and arms are numb from grabbing the rattling sword, and I've burned through 8 full MP potions on my all-seeing eye skill to release a measly 100 MP attack. A thin crest of black energy comes out of my blade. It doesn't flicker or shine. It just glides through the air without any resistance. The Berserker ignores the insignificant strike. It has blocked dozens of these attacks and even taken a few head-on in the past. By now, it's just focused on me, its prey. In an exhausted state, my eyes are locked on the attack I've just released. It may not be full of power, but I believe I got one thing right. It'll definitely be thin enough to slip through this monster's defenses. Moments later, my theory is proven to be correct. The thin black blade slides through the red-skinned berserker's mana shielding just like it slid through the rock wall during my training hours ago. Then, an explosion of white light and flames follow. With a smirk, I dungeon walk away to get out of range from the rage fit that's about to take place. As the flash of light and fireball fade, I hear an ear-piercing screech. Looking closely, I see a small blood-dripping gash on the side of this red-skinned monster's torso. Enough to make the crimson liquid dribble down its side, but not quite enough for the stream to make it to the floor. I did it! Dungeon walking to the far side of the arena again, I prepare to charge up another attack. Good progress. Now it's time to finish this fight. Chapter 164. I just landed my first successful attack on this monster. Took 40 seconds and almost 20 kmp, but I still landed an attack. The tingling feeling, along with a mild headache, begins to alert me that I'm definitely nearing the point of mana exhaustion. I'll be fine for a little while, but keeping this level of MP usage up will wear me out pretty quickly. Even so, this newfound technique of mine is very intriguing. What took over 10 kmp in a single dual attack on my last attempt hours ago just to break through its barrier is now soon to be rivaled by a 100 MP attack. I just have to concentrate harder. I've managed to perfect the hair-thin nature of the attack, but my mana density is nowhere near enough to do any damage. I'll have to compress even more MP into my next strike. Each time I send off another attack, it gets easier to replicate the exact size necessary to slip through its mana shielding. The part that doesn't get easier is the mana density. The only way to train that to a significant degree is to increase my overall mana control. Increasing my base levels of mana control would require me to consume massive amounts of mana over long periods of time. I'm severely lacking in both of these options at the moment. I take a deep breath, then get back to work. Over and over, I match the exact whisper-thin dimensions of the Berserker's mana shielding, penetrating it with ease each time. Unfortunately, after 5 more attacks and nearly 75k more MP burned through on my perception skill, not much progress has been made. Even with up to 60 seconds per charge, all I've managed to do is give this rage-filled monster a few paper cuts. The maximum amount I've been able to store in an attack has been roughly 150 MP. My head is aching and my hands are shaking. I've progressed a lot, but my mana control is just not powerful enough to put out enough charge into one blow. Looks like I'll have to do things the old-fashioned way. I start charging up my blade with as much mana as I possibly can. At my current rate of blows, I'll pass out from exhaustion before I do any real damage. Charging up just over 5k worth of mana points, I start releasing less concentrated, but much more powerful blows. I begin dungeon wailing around the poor beast, throwing attack after attack from my flaming sword. I prefer using 2 blades, but drinking potions along with releasing attacks makes dual welding rather awkward. After just a few minutes, and over 10 attacks later, the red-skinned berserker is on its knees. The bloodied and beaten monster still glares at me. Its facial expression says it's ready for another round. But this beast is in no position to fight. I'm not either. Since I woke up to start my training again, I've blown through another 200k MP. There's a slight ringing in my ears, a sharp pain in my head, and all of my limbs are tingling after every movement I make. I stare at the weakened monster, ready to call it a day by just releasing one last brute force attack. Instead, I decide to finish my training with a useful test. Activating my all-seeing eye, I ready myself for one more attack. My opponent crawls toward me with an undying will to finish me off, but this just gives me more time to study its mana. This beast is on its last breath in full battle mode with all defenses on full blast. I can sense the aura of mana shielding that it's continuously holding up as it nears. Gritting my teeth, I put my all into one last strike. Concentrating for over a minute and letting the beast draw nearer and nearer, I compact roughly 200 MP. Once it's less than 5 m away, I let my razor-thin attack glide through the air. I fall backward, but eagerly watch as my attack hits the wounded berserker head-on. It glides through its lower torso without a noise. The moment I fall flat on my back with a grin across my face, the monster splits cleanly in two. We hit the dungeon floor with 3 simultaneous thuds along with 2 clangs of our swords. I let out a chuckle. Progress is progress. Laying on my back, I let out a sigh and stare up at the gray sky above me. I beat one of these monsters without using a strengthening fragment, and most definitely progressed my mana control training. A 200 MP attack sliced one in half, but it was far from full power. Still, this is a good start. After relaxing on the cool, hard floor of the black, glossy dungeon surface, the fallen monster drops a mana crystal. Unfortunately, there's no other loot. With a groan, I stand up to walk over. While doing so, I open up my item storage to let Ember out for the first time in a while. He flaps his wings while stepping out of the white portal and flies into the sky. After opening up our telepathic link, the dragon speaks. It looks like you've been busy. I haven't gained any levels, so it seems you haven't been busy enough. I grin, picking up the palm-sized crystal off the ground and plundering it to dust on the spot. I've been training my mana control. The progress has been good, but I'm still not ready for the higher floors. Ember nods, flapping his wings more, soaring higher up into the sky. Good to hear your control does need work. The only reason you're able to handle so much MP is that self-regeneration skill, along with your advanced perception abilities. Good training and more mana consumption will do you well. You seemed pretty happy with your fighting style earlier, so I didn't bother to comment on it much before. I scratch my head, grinning, and watching the dragon stretch its crimson wings while passively throwing shade at my lack of fine-tuned mana control. Hey, I'm new to all of this, you know. These things take time. Swooping down, no more than 200 m away, Ember begins to burst into flames, clearly targeting something. He replies mid-nosedive. Looks like you saved one for me. I squint, trying to make out what he's aiming at, then realize I've completely dropped my guard after that intense battle. A new red-skinned berserker giant, level 402, has found its way to my position and was charging in my direction. Ember soars down at the silver sword-carrying beast and lets out a heavy attack of flames from his mouth. The dark red beam of fire hits the monster point blank, creating an explosion over 20 meters wide. Ember swoops upwards to let the beast deal with its attack. As the dragon flies away, I watch in awe as the flames stay lit. Mine went out in an instant, yet Ember stayed ablaze, doing residual damage to the angry beast even after the explosion clears. The black-scaled dragon dives in again, this time with his front leg outstretched bearing long red claws aimed straight at the confused fiery fiend. Moments later, Ember rips the top half of its torso off along with its head, sucking the corpse dry of MP, then tossing it off into the empty dungeon's landscape. My mouth stays wide open as the dragon does a few twists and turns in the air before putting out its flames and coming back down to greet me. So what will it be? Are we taking over this labyrinth? I've been itching more and more to rank up recently. Ember lands on the dungeon floor with a thud as I struggle to get out a word. You're this strong? It took me well over a dozen hits to take out of those berserkers. The black-scaled dragon replies with a toothy grin. If it's that difficult to take these monsters out at your level, we'll need to up your total mana control. If you process more mana, the higher density attacks become much easier to handle. It's only natural. I nod slowly.
I'm aware.
But I don't exactly have months to go and train off in Dash. I pause, then reply.
No.
You want to go back to that place? Ember moves his head in closer, replying. It would be the fastest way for you to gain mana consumption proficiency. It'll be free MP with your plundering ability, and there will be no shortage of time. It's the perfect plan. I gulp. I guess we'll go back to the Great Plains and enter another Titan's domain. Chapter 165. And enter another Titan's domain. As I speak these words, the thought of going back into that white-walled prison makes my stomach lurch. If I could never see one of those emotionless monsters again, I'd do almost anything to make that happen. Almost anything One of my faults may be the undying urge for more power. All self-preservation and logical reasoning bends at the possibility of this. Ember has a good point. I'm burning through way too much MP to reasonably keep this up. The only way I'm even able to handle these attacks is by using my all-seeing eye to aid in the precision aspect, and my self-regeneration skill to heal from the immense damage done to my body after each strike. Any normal hunter would be hospitalized after trying a single one of these attacks. I gulp again as Ember replies, "Shall we go now?" I'm still a bit flustered at the thought of it, but very tempted for so many reasons. I'm actually seriously considering going back to that place. I reply, "You're sure it's safe? How do we know last time wasn't just dumb luck?" Ember replies with an answer that makes me feel a lot better. "While I was farming titans on your command, I fell into dozens of domains. At my current plundering proficiency, I can make one of those pocket realms collapse in just under a day." I stare straight ahead, taking this new information into consideration. "Really?" Ember bows his head as I smirk. "In real-world time, I have just a few hours remaining before my meeting with Fisher. If I stock up on supplies like food and water, I can train inside the Titan's domain for as long as I want before coming back here." After a long pause, I open up my item storage. "Let's do it. We're going back." The dragon slips into my pocket dimension and I dungeon walk back to my hometown starter dungeon without a second thought. A wide grin creeps across my face as I step out of the exit portal into the outside world. I make my way to the village market grinning all the way.
I'm excited.
What started out as a nightmare is now turning into a gold mine for new power-ups. Falling into the Titan's domain may not have been a pleasant experience at first, but it turned out it may become even more fruitful than I'd first thought. I make my way to a local grocery store and begin stocking up on everything I'll need for this upcoming training session. I grab a small shopping cart and get to work. I go overkill on the water, stacking up 10 cases of 21-liter bottles, almost clearing out a whole section of shelving. With food, I keep it simple. I stock up on 2 months' worth of fresh fruits, vegetables, dried meats, and nuts. My item storage works as a perfect preservation chamber, so none of this will go bad. I grab a few comics and light novels I've been meaning to catch up on at the register while checking out. It's been a while since I read anything. Might as well get something to keep myself occupied during my downtime, so I don't go too crazy. The store clerk gives me a funny look at the checkout counter but accepts my handful of silver coins without question. As I roll my cart out the front doors, I make a sharp turn out of sight to immediately store my supplies in my item storage. Lastly, I make a quick pit stop back at my old apartment to grab a pillow, blanket, and a few pairs of clothes. It's been almost 30 minutes now since I got to town. Not wanting to waste another minute, I jog back to the starter dungeon ready for what's to come next. I'm shaking with excitement, but also some nerves. Whenever I feel like this, it's usually for a really good reason. The moment I step into the dungeon's glowing entrance portal on the far side of town, I teleport to my new destination, the Great Plains. In the blink of an eye, I'm deep within the rolling hills of the bland landscape I know so well. Activating my enemy detection skill, I'm thrown off by a few unaccounted-for variables. Spreading out my detection skill to the furthest depths of this dungeon, I pick up on all of the usual lower-level mobs and occasional mutants. There are a few distortions of 500m diameter blind spots that must be wandering titans, but one oddity sticks out. 4500m, LV, 606, LV, 371. There are 2 high-level hunters not too far off from me. One of them could be a monster, but they're traveling close together and sticking nearby one of the blind spots. I'd assume they're a hunting duo, but a level 606 is really high for the place, right? I whisper under my breath. Could it be Ari and a B-class? I remember back to when my team was sharing our weekly quota assignments, recalling Ares was to take down a Titan. He did say that he'd be accompanied by a B-class archer. There's a good chance that's them. Not wanting to make an awkward, unplanned appearance, I dungeon walk in the opposite direction, putting another 5 kilometers or so between us just in case. If I get caught hunting Titans right now, there would be too many people asking many questions I'm not looking to answer. It's best I steer clear of that mess. Once confirming there's nothing but a new slow-moving mass of endless mana within many kilometers of me, I open up my item storage to let Ember fly out. Immediately, I open up our telepathic link. We're here, but we're not alone. There are others in this dungeon with us. We'll need to make each takedown quick and precise. The black-scaled dragon stretches its wings and replies as it senses the nearby sensations of humming mana approaching us. Understood. I turn to face the low hum as well. Off in the distance, no more than 700 m away, a wandering black hole of energy comes marching at us. I take out my sword and instinctually burst into flames. Ember flies low to the ground, and I air-step forward to follow. I hear his voice in my head as we get closer and the humming mana becomes louder. As long as we're making physical contact, we'll be transported into its domain at the exact same time. I recommend you hold on. I stare forward at the black shadow of a humanoid figure in the distance, grit my teeth, then jump onto Ember's back as we continue to fly in the monster's direction. 400 m. We soar closer and closer as the humming gets more intense. I hold onto Ember's back with my legs and carry my flaming sword with a death grip. I know we'll be fine. There's just something not quite right about these monsters. The sight of them is always quite unsettling. 150 m. Ember bursts into flames as well. We leave a trail of dark fire behind us as he speeds up, facing the Titan head-on. 50 m. This is it. I'm going back in. The humming sound of mana fills all my senses as both of us rocket toward the monster's midsection. Ember speaks through our link moments before impact. Don't let go. 0 m. We collide with the 30 m tall giant and disappear into a black void seconds later. I'm not too sure what else I expected to happen, but this seems about right. In the outside world, its domain must have expanded to a 500 m wide dome just like it did that one time I attacked it with Ari. I'll never know for sure though. My vision went black the moment we made contact. Ember and I are floating in the endless black mass that is the Titan's domain. The sensation of dense mana all around me is both frightening and soothing. The feeling of weightlessness returns as I peer down into the void, seeing a pinhole of white light below us. I know exactly where we're headed. A few minutes pass and we fall closer and closer to the white box ominously approaching. This time around, however, I'm riding a dragon that knows its way around this place. With a powerful flap of its wings, I'm saved from hitting the hard floor. We glide in, making a perfect landing. The ceiling above us shuts closed the moment we enter without a sound, and I'm left staring at white walls that imprisoned me for months in the past. After a gulp, I let out a sigh and jump off Ember's back. The dragon speaks through our link. Shall I collapse this domain in 24 hours? Or would you like your training to go on longer? I pause, thinking about this option carefully. When I did my initial scan of this dungeon, there weren't more than half a dozen Titans that showed up on my radar. When you were hunting Titans on your own last week, how many would spawn at once? Ember thinks for a moment, then responds. No more than 7 or so a day at first. Although, the more I hunted them, the less often those void creepers came out from their realm. It would be wise to train inside each one for much longer than 24 hours. We could even spend time in this one indefinitely if you'd like. I nod. Let's do 10 days per Titan. We can farm strengthening fragments while I train. I smirk as Ember responds. Very well, I'll limit my mana consumption by 90%. The domain will become unstable within 10 days. Once it begins to fall apart, you may slice through its weak barrier, or wait for the domain to naturally collapse. It's your choice. Excited for what's to come, I already start plundering mana from the rich stores all around me. Letting out a satisfying sigh while taking in the pure energy, I reply, sounds good. I'll see you in 10 days. Ember bows, then curls up into a ball, closes his eyes, and begins to glow light red. I smirk while channeling mana into my glowing blade. This training session is about to begin. By the time I see Fisher for our next meeting, I'll be on a whole different level. Chapter 166. Ember is already fast asleep, slowly draining the mana from the near-endless supply all around us. I'm doing the same on a much small scale. With a grin across my face, I begin charging up my flaming sword. While doing so, I reach into my item storage to grab my dagger while whispering under my breath. It's been a while, hasn't it? Both weapons pulse red and white as I begin filling them with the dense mana surrounding us that I've missed so much. I start right where I left off the last time I was in this place. The difference is, I have no worries about being trapped in here forever. I have food supplies that'll last me for months, assurance that I'll leave in 10 days, and I have a concrete goal in mind. During my last trial in the Titan's domain, I used up about 10 million MP. It's gotten me this far, but I need to make some major upgrades. The most important thing I need to work on is replicating those paper-thin slashes, but easily charging a full bar of MP into them. I'm level 409, so just over 2000 MP is nearly a full bar. I'd like to be able to charge one up in just a few seconds so I can actually battle these monsters without using cheap tricks and wearing myself out completely after one fight. My final attack on that Berserker took over 60 seconds to charge, and I only managed to let out 200 MP at the proper hair-thin width. I'm setting out to improve over 10x in both speed and power. I'm not quite sure yet how much MP I'll have to process in order to achieve this, but that's my goal. If I can even come close, this will be a success in my mind. I decide to let loose for a bit, but overall take day 1 rather slow. Glowing gold and red, enjoying the abundance of free mana in the air, I begin to let out attack after attack at the white walls all around me. They tear open large holes, letting me peer out into the void for a few seconds at a time before they heal up completely. My already sore body from the intense training outside allows for 10-10k strikes. This is 5k MP per blade. It's just a warm-up, and it gets me used to this mana-rich environment again. End of day 1, 100k MP consumed.
Total mepe consumed. 100k mepe.
I take it easy and pull out my pillow, a few comics, and a blanket along with some fresh fruit. Overusing mana makes me very tired. I drift off to sleep within a few hours. This may be the beginning to one of my most intense training sessions, but I'd like to take it slow. In here, all I have is time after all. The Titan's domain has been a nightmare in the back of my mind ever since I left it. Maybe I can turn this place into a vacation spot instead. I wake up the next morning and get to work. I need to get my body used to using more MP every day, along with trying to fit more and more energy into a smaller strike. I won't aim for any specific parameters at first. I'll just go with how I feel. In the outside world, my MP exhaustion limit is around 250,000 MP points. At that point, my body completely gives up on me. That's with self-regeneration being taken into account. In here, it's at least double that. With so much energy in the air, it makes healing and releasing attacks much easier on my tired muscles and bones. End of day 2, 500k MP. Total MP consumed, 600k MP. I managed to consume just about 500,000 MP stretched over 8 hours on day 2. Nearing the end, I begin to get that familiar tingling feeling in my limbs, and the overall fatigue begins to kick in. Call it there. The next few days go by fast. End of day 3, 550k MP. End of day 4, 575k MP. End of day 5, 600k MP. End of day 6, 200k MP. Total MP consumed, 2.525 MP. My MP output slowly rises for 3 days straight. This is from me pushing the limits during each session. I've only been releasing 5k MP per blade. Channeling more seems to exhaust my mind too quickly, and less tires out my body. Using 5k per blade seems to be the perfect medium. I've been training in 8 hours blocks, basically to full exhaustion every night. Each day I've been getting more and more tired by the end of it, just like the last time I was in here. I thought it was the lack of food and water that made me feel this way, but it seems mana exhaustion played a much bigger role than I thought it did. Less than halfway through day 6, I decide to take a break and rest my sore body again. End of day 7, 725k MP. End of day 8, 740k MP. End of day 9, 745k MP. End of day 10, 250k MP.
Total MP consumed. 4985 mmp.
After my day of rest, I come back even stronger. I start off with a huge spike in energy. The mana consumption over these next 3 days slowly rises and is comparable to my peak last time I trained here. When I wake up on day 10, Ember begins to reach his final stage of collapsing this Titan's domain. I grab all my supplies and throw them in my item storage. This has been a good start. Very uneventful, but a good start. I'll be able to pick up right where I left off on our next Titan. The red aura begins to expand and the white walls around us start to fade away to reveal the black abyss behind it. I decide to only use my sword to perform a test. I'll be seeing how much progress I've made so far over the last 10 days of training. Concentrating with my all-seeing eye, while plundering MP from my surroundings, I begin to replicate the attack that took out that final berserker, creating a hair-thin blade of mana deep within my sword, while channeling as much MP as possible into the attack without disrupting its width. After about 60 seconds of charging and immense concentration, I hit my limit and let the attack soar. A thin 550 MP flaming black sliver of energy flies through the open air in front of me, slicing through the void like butter, but not making a sound. I increase my perception to watch it until the end. It slips through the outer wall of the Titan domain with ease. Moments after, a wide slit opens up in the abyss of blackness surrounding me, and the process of a realm collapse from the inside out begins again. Ember's aura gets brighter and the domain gets smaller as we begin to fall through the darkness back into reality. Both Ember and I hit the grassy floor of the Great Plains dungeon with a loud thud. I grin as my black-scaled companion wakes from his slumber. The collapse was a success, Master. I grin, replying while searching around in my mind's eye using enemy detection to locate another Titan. It seems it was. I pick up a small black gem off the ground and place it in my item storage with a smirk across my face. Next, I put my hand on Ember's smooth, glossy scales, instantly teleporting us into the vicinity of the nearest Titan. Other than the void creeper that Team of 2 is facing, I can sense 3 more deep within the dungeon. There's 2 that are in range and 1 that'll take a couple kilometer trek to get to. It's outside of my dungeon walker skills range, so we'll have to either walk or fly over when the time comes. I'll save that one for last. As we blip back into existence, I hop on Ember's back, and we begin diving deep into the abyss of another Titan. After a familiar series of events, the darkness fades and we're back in a solid white box once again. Ember curls up and begins absorbing the domain. I take it easy for the rest of the day, then get back to work the next morning. I to do a similar cycle of 3 days on, and 1 day off while making a mental note of my daily mana consumption. End of day 11. 775 kmp. End of day 12. 780 kmp. End of day 13. 785 kmp. End of day 14. 200 kmp. End of day 15. 815 kmp. End of day 16. 815 kmp. End of day 17. 820 kmp. End of day 18. 200 kmp. End of day 19. 855 kmp. End of day 20. 100 kmp.
Total MP consumed. 10,315 mmp.
Once the final day of this training cycle hits, I'm pretty tired out. I had an off day not too long ago, but my rapid increase in daily consumption is starting to slow. Although the total amount I can manage to consume each day isn't rising as quickly, I'm still progressing at an alarming rate. I have to go through extensive self-regeneration sessions every night before I go to sleep, eating excess food and sleeping longer throughout the night to mend my tingling hands and feet along with the headache that comes with overusing my perception skill. As Ember begins to collapse this domain, I charge up another attack to test my progress. I power up a single attack for about 60 seconds and manage 900 MP into the paper-thin slash. It's a much darker blade now, and hardly gives off an flickering red residue. Just like before, it flies through the open abyss as the walls fade away, slipping through the outer edge of the void to make a tear. It's almost disappointing to see. The domain's reaction to this slash looks identical to the last one. It slips through and cuts it open in an instant. The Berserker's mana shielding is on a whole different level than these Void Creepers. It's hard to get a solid idea of how strong these new attacks really are. I'm itching to try this out on a tough opponent, but I still need to get stronger. After picking up the small strengthening fragment from the ground and doing a quick scan of my surroundings, I lock onto our next target. Ember and I dive deep into another Titan's domain. End of day 21. 855k MP. End of day 22. 850k MP. End of day 23. 855k MP. End of day 24. 200k MP. End of day 25. 855k MP. End of day 26. 860k MP. End of day 27. 850k MP. End of day 28. 200k MP. End of day 29. 860k MP. End of day 30. 860k MP. Total MP consumed 16.765 MP. My days are filled with charging swords and slashing walls. It seems my progression has peaked around 850 to 860k MP whenever I reach this point. All systems in my body basically shift off and I need to sleep to recover. Even after using self-regeneration after every 50k MP consumed or so used, this is still my limit. I even drank a spare HP potion to see if it'd do a full recovery. But my mana exhaustion was not healed at all. It was just a waste of a perfectly good potion. I have a feeling this isn't something that can be brute force trained any further. I may have to increase my level to be able to handle more MP. At the end of the final day, I test out my full power after consuming another 10 days worth of unlimited free MP. After a 60-second charge, I'm able to power up 1550 MP into a slash at the exact paper-thin metric needed to make it through a Berserker's shielding. Again, it's overkill for this domain, but good practice. I've almost made it to my goal of a 2000 MP slash. After the inventable tearing and collapse of the third Void Creeper's pocket realm, we fall back into the Great Plains. Letting out a sigh, I breathe in the fresh air of the wide-open dungeon and take in the view while Ember wakes from his mana-plundering sleep. Once he does, the dragon's calm voice enters my head through our link. Another successful collapse, Master. I nod. Indeed. While picking up the small strengthening fragment from this session, I activate enemy detection and prepare to teleport. As I look out deep into the depths of the Great Plains, my heart skips a beat. Only a single reading pops up in my search for another Titan. The last time I checked, that hunter duo was facing one, and there was another far off in a part of the dungeon I haven't been to yet. The one I was saving for last is gone. I whisper under my breath. Why? Is there only one left? Chapter 167. I expand my enemy detection range further and further into the depths of the Great Plains dungeon in a panic. Just moments ago, there was another Titan not so far outside my dungeon walker's range. To me, it was 10 days ago, so my memory is a bit foggy, but I'm sure I would have stayed in this one much longer to train if I knew there wasn't another left. I'm positive I was saving that one for last. I grit my teeth and open up the telepathic link with Ember to see if he has any input. Our last Titan vanished into thin air. Has this ever happened to you before? The slowly waking dragon replies. It has. Sometimes they disappear through the rift if danger is too abundant in an area. Give it a day or two, they'll be back. I'm sure of it. Don't worry. I shove my sword into my item storage with a frustrated look on my face. The rift. What's the Never mind that. If I knew this sooner, I wouldn't have wasted the last 3 on such short sessions. Even though I got a few fragments out of it, I still need more training. Ember nods. Understood, we can come back tomorrow and continue if you'd like. I don't think the Titans will abandon this dungeon over a single incident. They're long-term thinkers. It'll take many repeated events to scare them off. I sigh, taking a look around the dungeon one last time with my enemy detection skill. Confirming once again, the only remaining Titan is right next to that B-class and their partner. The air feels thin, lacking pure energy. I've gotten used to a high-density mana environment again. I'll have to adapt back to using mana potions and crystals soon. I'm sure this time will be a bit easier to adjust. Going back to the labyrinth right now is my safest bet. That seems to be our only option. Although my training was cut short, I've more than doubled my total MP consumption. That 16 MMP would have taken over 1.6k gold coins at market price. I've definitely improved. I'm just not quite sure how much yet. I teleport back to the 10th floor materializing into my small bedroom. Dust flies up in the air at my sudden appearance, and the dungeon's artificial sun shines through the dirty window. I make my way downstairs. I've had more than enough rest. Another month has gone by in my mind, but the world around me hasn't changed at all. It's a bit less rattling this time because I knew it had happened from the start. Still, I can't help from feeling like I found some kind of unlimited power cheat code. I could go back there and train every time the Titans respawn. As long as I bring enough food and water, I can indefinitely train my mana control. Walking down the wooden stairs of the inn, a smile creeps across my face as my feet make light tapping sounds that echo throughout the main tavern area. The first voice that greets me is the innkeeper along with his cheerful smile. "Morning to you, Jay. You've been knocked out cold for hours. How was your sleep?" I smile, walking by him to take a seat on one of the empty circular tables. Not bad, mister." No need to use mister. Just call me Conway. Right, Conway. I look down at the wooden table, embarrassed that I forgot his name while mindlessly slashing at white walls for a month. I swallow my pride and carry on our conversation like that didn't just happen. Some food would be great. He bows slightly, then begins walking to the back room. "You got it." I exhale, taking in my surroundings with an odd eerie tension in the back of my mind. Everything in the inn looks just like it was. There are all the same familiar C-class squads from the association sitting around tables eating food and trading gear, but something feels off. It's way too silent. I'm so accustomed to the low humming of mana in my ears and nothing else. This bustling environment is oversensitizing me again. My brain and body feel drained just sitting here. There aren't unlimited stores of mana to plunder from all angles, and I'm craving MP already. The sounds of people laughing and talking all around me begin to get muffled in my mind. All I can focus on is my foot tapping on the ground as I zone further and further out. Then I hear the same cheerful voice of an old man in my ear. "Here you go, Jay. Hope your training goes well today. I think Fisher should be out here in an hour or two." The innkeeper's voice snaps me back to reality, and I gracefully accept the steaming hot plates of food and cold drinks. "Appreciate it." He smiles and walks away with a skip in his step. I eat up, but a funny question does stick out in the back of my mind. When does Conway sleep? I chuckle to myself as I can't figure out just how he does it, but decide to pay it no mind and relax. Watching hunters come and go for the next few hours is pretty nice. Much more interesting than my month-long vacation of solitude in the void. Eventually, a certain red-haired man pokes his head through the front doors of the inn, locking eyes with me almost instantly. It's Rylan. Hey, Jay, you're up. I'm excited to see your progress with Fisher today. Maybe I'll actually get to watch the two of you train, or maybe even spar. He comes marching toward me with a smile across his face, then sits down at the opposite side of the table. "You know that team I went to meet? They didn't even want to check out the inn. The lot of them just headed straight off to floor 11 without a word." I respond, vaguely remembering that Rylan was going to meet a new team from the same C-class exams as me. I wonder who they could be. "Oh yeah? Our Dash." He cuts me off. "Those nobles are really a stuck-up bunch, aren't they? Walking around in their gold and silver armor. The association just gives them a pity contract if they manage to pass the exam. It's more for the off chance that they rank to an elite on their own. Most of them have the funding to do so anyways." I raise an eyebrow, remembering back to one of my first clashes during the C-class exams. It was a group just like the one he's describing. A team of men all dressed in gold and silver armor. The leader had an odd barrier skill. We clashed briefly, but I didn't see him again after that. Those guys were nobles? I scratch my head as Rylan goes off on another tangent. I begin to zone out again, feeling empty, craving a battle or some high concentrations of mana. My attention problem is getting worse. I think it's just a side effect of my training. I got used to it last time. In a few days I should be fine this time around as well. Finally, footsteps start coming down the wooden steps at the back of the room, and a blue-haired swordsman comes walking down while wiping his tired eyes. He's carrying a white glowing rectangle. I hear him say a few words into it before he puts it away into his item box. Understood. I'll await your next call. The innkeeper greets him with a cheerful smile as he makes eye contact with me. The elite quickly makes his way over. Morning. Glad you're early. Come on, let's go. There's no time to waste. A bit rude, but exactly what I was hoping for. I'm not in the mood to waste time either. If anything, I'd rather just climb the labyrinth on my own. The faster I can slip away from these two and continue my battles on the 19th floor, the better. I follow Fisher outside as he begins to make his way back to the mountain base in a rush. Rylan starts asking questions on the way. Hey, what's the big idea? What's with the attitude all of a sudden? You could have at least sat down with us for a little while or something. Fisher replies, there's been a change of plans. Hopefully Jay's ready for the next stage of our training by the end of today. I just got word from the director about a break up north. My squad may need to be deployed early, so I'd like to get through as much as we can before I'm called out for immediate action. Rylan nods with a serious look on his face, then pauses for a few seconds before a grin curls on the corner of his lips again. So that means I'll definitely be able to see some cool training from you two today, right? Fisher smirks with a tired look on his face, nodding to Rialn and looking back at me. Hope Jay's up for it. Let's see how much he learned yesterday. I reply in a low tone under my breath. I think I've learned quite a bit. We continue our short walk and make it back to the base of the mountain with sliced boulders and smashed rock laid out in piles all over. I speak up before either of them has a moment to question it. I came back and trained a bit more while you were asleep. I thought it wouldn't hurt. Fisher bends down to take a look at one of the split-open rocks, feeling the glossy texture with 2 fingers, then turns to me with a surprised look on his face. Wow, not bad, kid. Not bad at all. I reply in an annoyed tone. I told you not to call me that. You're only a few years older than me, ya dash. Yeah. The elite takes out his waterstone-imbued sword and points it up at the rock ledge that we aimed our attacks at just yesterday. Go on. Let's see what you've learned. Immediately, I take out my sword and begin to charge it up. I haven't thrown an attack at anything but pure white mana shielding for the last 30 days. I've been so focused on the proper attack for defeating a berserker that I forgot about this training completely. Smirking, I whisper under my breath, this will be easy. I charge up 100 MP into a small strike, thin and dense enough to cut through the skin of a floor 19 mob. Definitely overkill for this rock face. Without a second thought, I swing my flaming red blade of the overhang and let the dark crescent of energy fly. It's barely visible and slices through the air without a sound. Almost identical to Fisher's attack yesterday. It hits the rock ledge and glides through. To the naked eye, not a single cut is made. It just looks like my slash missed. Half a second later, a massive chunk of the rock wall slides off as the thin black blade flies up into the open air of the dungeon. I grin, watching the glossy texture of rock reflect the dungeon's sun back at us. The heap of rocks from above hits the ground with a thud, making dust fly up in all directions. Ryan's face lights up as he lets out a gasp, followed by a long laugh, turning to Fisher. The blue-haired elite stands in awe for a moment, staring at the smooth rock above us. Then, a satisfied look comes across his face as he puts his sword back into his item box and crosses his arms. Impressive. You really had no idea what you were doing before you came here, did you? You've just been throwing all that raw power at your enemies until now. I pause before replying, impressed that he can manage to throw in a jab in even now. I guess so. He smirks. Well, in that case, I guess we can start phase 2 of your training earlier than I thought. Chapter 168. I look up at Fisher while powering down my sword. I've had a lot of time to think about my situation here in the labyrinth while I was away training in the Titan's domain. When we first met, I was a bit annoyed with this blue-haired elite for stepping on my toes during my solo labyrinth diving mission. I still am, but he's just following orders. If anything, it's the director's fault. He's telling all the other association lackeys around here what to do. I don't blame him for following through on his mission, but I still work better alone. Fisher continues to speak. We'll be climbing the labyrinth. I hear what he has to say, but I was expecting it. I reply, I still want to climb these floors alone, you know. Just because the director wants us to team up doesn't mean it has to happen. Fisher smirks, letting out a light laugh. I remember when I still had the will to fight like you. Trust me. Stay on his good side while you still can. I lock eyes with Fisher. He looks back at me with a serious, worry-filled gaze. I turn away first, replying under my breath, This is no fun. The elite sighs, then replies, It's not meant to be fun. We're going to war soon, you know. I gulp, looking up at him. What are you talking about? The breaks up north, coming from the Dark Continent. They're the worst ones we've had in a long time. That's why we're even here in the first place, and why the director put so much money into training you C-class recruits. Fisher digs through his item storage and takes out 2 palm-sized crystals. They're both completely white and give off a low mana-filled hum. If necessary, we'll be using these to transport back to the Association HQ. They're one-time used transport crystals. I raise an eyebrow, staring at the glowing items until Fisher puts them away and continues to speak. I hear you have a mana crystal quota too, don't ya? We can help you fill that while we climb the floors. With a grin, he points a thumb back to Rylan. The redhead jumps in. Hey! I never signed up for this free labor. Fisher turns back to him. I think you did. You should be with your squad on floor 17 anyway. We'll drop you off on the way up. He opens his mouth to reply, but stops and nods. I think about it for a moment, then let out a sigh and a shrug. Fine, I guess I might as well. Fighting this point won't get me anywhere. I could probably farm 50k MP worth of crystals in a few hours if I teleported around any dungeon solo, but abandoning my mission isn't a good idea. Even if tricked into it, won't get me anywhere close to the director's good side. Although Fisher seems to be completely tied up by the association, I still sense some fight in him. I'm curious to learn a few more things about him, and see what else he can potentially teach me about mana control in the meantime. Even though he didn't teach me much directly, he's been pointing me in the right direction every step of the way so far. I speak up. Before I agree, could I test out an attack against your mana shielding again? I'd like to see how far I've come since our last clash. Fisher crosses his arms, giving me an arrogant smirk, while Rialn's eyes light up behind him. Sure, go for it. It'll give you a good idea of how hard these higher floor monsters will really be. Now that you understand mana control a bit better, you'll realize how outmatched you really are. He takes a step back and puts both of his arms to his sides. Rylan gets out of the way as I step in front of him with a sharp look in my eyes. You're sure? You don't even want to block with your sword. He rolls his eyes and shakes his head. Don't worry. Go all out. I know your full potential power already. You'd need over double that to even think about breaking through my shielding. Try all you want. I clench my jaw, then grip my blade tight while focusing on an attack. I make my strike as thin as possible, the same width as the attack that sliced through the Berserker's shielding. My availability of mana here isn't as abundant as the environment I trained in, so I can already tell my proficiency has dropped. In just under 60 seconds, I focus around 1000 MP into a deadly black fiery slash. With a swift swing of my blade, I let it soar. The swordless swordsman's expression changes as he watches the thin energy blade approach. Using my all-seeing eye to watch from afar, I witness his mana shield activate less than a meter before impact. It's denser than any shield I've faced before. I didn't get an actual close look at it last time we faced off. Well, I did. I just didn't understand how fine-tuned his mana control really was. My sliver of energy meets his invisible wall of mana. For a moment, It seems like time stops. My blade hits the center of his chest and comes to a complete halt, pushing forward with nowhere to go. Moments later, I see a dim flash of white light as Fisher moves out of the way and the blade flies past him, disappearing into the rock face 20 m away. A toothy grin creeps across my face at the sight before my eyes. At the bottom of Fisher's torso on the side my blade flew off to, there's a small rip in his shirt, and a light trickle of blood coming off a tiny paper-thin gash. The blue-haired elite curses under his breath as I celebrate with a childish attitude. Ryland's eyes open wide as I power down my sword and Fisher speaks while putting a hand over his side. He activates a light blue glow and the bleeding stops immediately. Damn it! How'd you possibly power up this much in less than 24 hours? That kind of improvement takes months of training. You dash. Ryland steps in. Looks like someone might be taking your spot as the new youngest elite hotshot. Wouldn't you say? He looks over to me, and I just reply with a shrug. Fisher speaks up. Well, that certainly settles it. You're at least ready to train on the 19th floor. Maybe even the 20th. Not going to lie, I thought I'd have to beat the behemoth for you. At this rate, maybe you'll actually have a chance at that thing after all. I'm still silent, staring down at my dark blade. Excitement fills my body as I realize just how far I've come. It's been a grueling 30 days for me, but it feels like it went by in a flash. Come on, we might as well start now while the day is young. I brought food and water. Let's start our trek upwards. I look up Fisher. Already? Do you have anything else to do? I thought so, come on. We'll farm mana crystals with you up until the 17th floor. That's where we'll drop off this tag-along with his team. The redhead rolls his eyes and I nod. Once we make it up there, I'll have to check in with the association one more time before going up to the dead zone. I raise an eyebrow. The dead zone. Fisher nods, taking out his silver quota tablet. His looks much different than mine. It has 4 clear gems attached to each corner. The association can't contact me that far up. Monsters with higher mana control tend to live in much more mana-rich environments. It screws with long-range connections. That's why we call it the dead zone. I nod slowly, not understanding a word he just said. The only thing on my mind is the fact that his tablet has clear gems on it and mine doesn't. Hey, why doesn't my tablet have those? The director didn't dash. All 4 clear stones on the tablet begin to light up with a white glow. I stare mesmerized. The blue-haired elite's eyes instantly go back to the tired look I saw moments ago when he was waking up from his sleep at the inn. He grips the tablet tightly. What kind of timing is this? You speak of the director's name and he comes calling. I gulp. He's calling? Through that. The lights on all 4 corners of the silver tablet begin to shine brighter and brighter until a very familiar voice comes ringing out into my ears. Fisher. Fisher. Do you read me? We're going to need your immediate dispatch on a series of C-class dungeon breaks along the northern border. Please report your training progress with your assigned member of the new elite squad. Fisher replies, We're just about to start Phase 2 of Jay's training. Phase 2 already? Yes, sir. There's a pause on the other side of the line for almost 10 full seconds. I grit my teeth while listening, but can't hold myself back any longer. I storm over to Fisher with my eyes locked on the glowing quota tablet. I've been thinking about this man for over a month straight. Let me talk to him. I'd like to give the director a piece of my mind. I signed up for a solo labyrinth mission, and I'm going to get what I was promised. I reach over and grab the silver rectangle right out of Fisher's hand. Hey, hello? Can you hear me? Another long pause follows. Then the regional director's voice finally rings out of it. Well, what a surprise. It's nice to talk to you again so soon, Jay. It seems there's been another change of plans. Chapter 169. What do you mean there's been another change of plans? There's always a change of plans. You know, I have a few things I want to talk about with you. I've been particularly irritable lately. Maybe it's from the lack of mana, or just my time away from people and stimulation again. I know shouting at the director and calling him out on the spot is a rash decision. but my mouth is moving faster than my brain right now. He responds after another long pause. Well, I'm glad you're so energetic today. I hear your mana control is much more refined than I predicted it would be. It seems you've managed to exceed my expectations once again. I grit my teeth and think about going off on a rant about him lying to me every step of the way during my time at the association, but pause and hold my tongue. Red-faced and gripping the glowing white box, I take a deep breath in and out before calmly responding with a more calculated approach. Good to talk with you too, Director. I was surprised to be assigned a training partner in the labyrinth. I was under the impression I was climbing solo. I gulp, hoping my delicate wording is enough to get my point across, but not bite the hand that feeds me too hard just yet. There's another long pause as Fisher makes his way over to me with an angry expression of his own across his face. The director responds before the Blue Hairs elite can get a word in. Jay, I do apologize if you feel you've been lied to during your first 2 weeks at the association. It's only natural. You haven't exactly been completely truthful with us either. My heart skips a beat as I hear this line from the old man come through the glowing box. I don't reply. The director's voice continues to ring out. I enjoy playing games, as long as I know I'll win in the end. Your recent developments have me rethinking a few moves. Another pause follows. The suspense is killing me. I begin to repeat his words in my head over and over to try and figure out what exactly he's getting at. I haven't been truthful? As long as he wins? Rethinking moves? Sounds like this old man has gone crazy. By the way he's speaking, it really seems like he looks at life like it's a big chess game or something. I finally respond after Fisher elbows me in the gut, whispering in my ear, "Come on, say something." I respond in a low, calculated tone. Mr. Director, I appreciate the assistance with my training recently, but I remember you telling me this was a solo mission. For now, that is my only complaint. I'd like to know exactly what I'm getting myself into before I agree to something, and trust that I'm in safe hands, especially with all this talk of the Dark Continent. I believe we need to come to a better agreement. Another 5-second pause follows before the old man's voice rings out. I understand how you feel, and I believe we can come to a better conclusion after your current mission is complete. I clench my jaw, but hold back from cutting him off as he continues. For now, could you please hand the transmission tablet back to Fisher? I have urgent matters to attend to. You may even get what you're asking for sooner than you think. There's another long pause. Then Fisher finally takes the device from my hands while putting it up close to his face and walking away from me. Sorry about that, I copy. Give me an update on. His voice begins to fade away as he walks further from me. I'm confused and still a bit angry standing next to the grinning redhead. Rylan and I make casual conversation for a few minutes while the elite talks on the phone for an uncomfortable amount of time. We make good conversation though. I learn a few things. Apparently, the redhead has only managed to consume around 3 million MP in his career at the association. Considering his age, this seems very low to me. After a thorough explanation, the reasoning is his skill, swordsmanship. It takes many training hours to burn through a full bar in his physical condition with a nearly passive skill. The same goes for many common skill users like body hardening or certain passive weapon handling abilities. That's why combat magic wielders are more likely to be chosen as elites. They have a natural aptitude for consuming and controlling mana at much higher levels than common skill users. One thing I've learned from his excessive gabbing is that it is possible to imbue mana into a weapon or armor piece if it's bonded with the user. This is why I'm able to put mana into my sword and dagger. Non-combat magic users are able to achieve this too. It just takes much more mana control training and a special type of weapon. The Berserker's blade I picked up earlier comes to mind, but I decide not to mention it. Finally, after many long minutes that felt like hours, Fisher returns with a puzzled look on his face. The silver rectangle stops glowing and he puts it away into his item box. His movements seem rushed. Well, what do you want to hear first? The good news, the bad news, or the even worse news? I reply, give me the bad news first. He nods, pulling out the 2 small white crystals from his item box and bringing them up close to my eye line. Well, it seems I've been called out on some urgent business. It's those C-class breaks by the border. They need more elite teams to handle the mutants. Some of them have high mana control proficiency. This is a rough one. I don't say a word as he continues. If we can clear everything out, I'll be back in 2 to 3 days max. Our training may have to end prematurely. I gulp. Okay, so what's the good news then? Fisher throws me one of the white crystals. Well, it seems you got on Brutus' good side once again. He says you're ready to climb the labyrinth yourself. I catch the small gem and reply as a grin creeps across my face. Okay, but what's this for? The elite smirks. The director says that's for if you decide to face the behemoth before I get back. You have a reputation of getting in over your head. Use it if you're in any life-threatening trouble. He lets out a laugh as I feel the small white crystal up and down with my fingers. To activate it, all you have to do is crush it in your palm. You and anything on your person will be transported to a safe point within the Association HQ. If a monster happens to be in contact with you, they'll be transported as well. So be careful. I let out a chuckle. So you're saying I could transport a boss monster into the Association's HQ? Hey, don't get any bright ideas. I just saved you from a whole lot of trouble on that call, you know. Plus, the transport point is mana shielded up to B-class level attacks. Whatever you manage to drag in won't be a problem. I let out a sigh. Yeah, I was just kidding. Good. Thanks. I'm glad this worked out. I'll get to climb the labyrinth alone just like I wanted. I know you were just doing your job and all. It's just I dash. Save it. I haven't gotten to the worst news just yet. I raise an eyebrow. Oh, right. Fisher points behind me at the redhead staring up at the open dungeon sky. He's your problem now. Get him up to the 17th floor to meet his team, director's orders. Then you can train up on the 18th and 19th by yourself. I look over at the oblivious fiery-haired swordsman. Fisher continues. Based on the attack you just threw at me, you'll have no problem facing the base-level mobs on floor 19. They're fast and good with their weapons, just don't get lost in the mazes. I'm sure once you see how powerful they are, you may have second thoughts about soloing floor 20. I let out a light smirk, knowing that I'm facing the floor 19 boss the next moment I get free. He continues. As I said before, I'll be back in 3 days max. I'd recommend facing the 18th floor boss a few times to get a feel for its abilities before going any further and... Fisher continues to give me tips like a concerned parent as I zone out fantasizing about the floors above. I'm rudely snapped out of it by the blue-haired swordsman's hands waving in front of my face. Got it. Yep. Got it. Thanks, Fisher. He tightens his gaze, then moves his eyes over to Rylan behind me. The redhead is already on his way over. I heard most of that, no need to fill me in. I open my mouth, but Fisher cuts in. Good. Help Jay farm mana crystals on the way up as we promised. The elite takes a few packages of food and water out of his item box, throwing them on the ground in front of us. Hope these will be more than enough for you two. See you soon. He waves us goodbye without another word. The white crystal gets crushed in his hand and a bright white light flashes before our eyes. When it fades, Fisher is gone. I turn to my new traveling partner, then let out a sigh as he picks up all of the materials on the ground to place them in his item box. I speak up. Looks like we'll be climbing the next 7 floors together. He turns to me with the same bright smile as always. Looks like it. Secretly, I'm planning my next moves to get onto the 20th floor. The faster we climb these next 7 floors, the better. I'm itching for a real fight. The first moment I get to ditch him and face the 19th floor boss, I'll take it. I have 3 days while Fisher is away to defeat the behemoth all by myself. Chapter 170. Rylan packs up all of our gear. Both of us ready our swords before walking deep into the 10th floor dungeon. He's not my preferred travel companion. I'd rather just dungeon walk up to floor 19 myself, but at least I know 7 floors up from here is the highest he'll go. With Fisher watching my every move, I was worried I wouldn't comfortably be able to go all out. It may have been interesting to see how an elite fights, but it's much more fun to do it on my own. We begin marching up the floors at a pretty solid pace. I don't mind the wait. Just 2 hours or so per floor is nothing compared to the month-long mental solitude I've faced 2 times now. Rylan is spitting facts about the association in my ear all the way up. A good history lesson never hurt anybody. We take breaks every 1 or 2 floors to stop and rest. The redhead is actually not bad with his sword. The mobs we're facing aren't too strong, but they aren't too weak either. He is a mid-level C-class. The hunter's cheerful attitude just distracts me from the fact that he's been in the association for over a decade. Rylan is a seasoned fighter in his own right. After about 9 hours of straight walking and slashing, we make it to floor 14. We take a long break near the entrance portal on this floor. There's just 3 more before our destination. The redhead speaks up while swallowing a mouthful of food he just recently pulled from his item box. "Hey Jay, why'd you become a hunter at the association anyway? You don't seem to like the director much, and you don't even wear a standard issue uniform." I grab an apple from the food pile Fisher left us and take a bite, swallowing before I answer. "I just wanted to get stronger. This seemed like it'd be the only way." Rylan nods, looking up at the sky. "Well, they only pick out 1 new elite squad per region every year, so you totally lucked out." I shrug. Lucked out? Maybe. I think luck just gets you where you deserve to be faster. For better or worse, right? The redhead looks at me with a confused look, then carries on with his nonsensical rambling, differing the conversation to a completely different topic. We carry on with our walk upwards soon after. Another 4 hours pass and we make it to the 16th floor. This is the miniature version of the Great Plains Dungeon. Apparently, this is the place where Rylan and his team usually train. He speaks up. "This is our last floor. We should be able to meet my team by the boss room portal." The director sent them a transmission to let them know our estimated arrival time. That's where we usually meet up before jumping floors anyways. We head to the back of the dungeon without another thought. Although we rushed through these 7 floors, about 25k MP worth of crystals was farmed from mobs that attacked us on the way. I'll have to scrounge up another 25k myself at some point during the week. As we approach the backside of the dungeon, my enemy detection radar picks up on double the readings it's supposed to. There are 4 extra entities nearby, and they're all over level 360. I speak up to Rylan as we approach the top of the final hill that leads down to the portal below. "Hey, we have company. It's not just your team down there." We make it to the top of the last rolling hill, and who I see next surprises me. I use appraisal and inspect on a tall man in silver and gold armor with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes. LV 377. Active items. Enchanted steel sword plus 900 strength. Enchanted armor set plus 1100 defense. Enchanted gold ring plus 50% mental strength. Enchanted ring of quickness plus 55% speed. Enchanted platinum ring plus 70% mental strength. Dragon scale pendant plus 50% mental strength. Active skills. Combat magic. Barrier summoning. Swordsmanship. I whisper under my breath as I realize this is one of the hunters that I clashed with at the C-class exam. It's him. He's definitely gotten some major upgrades in both his level and gear. I freeze and squint my eyes to get a better look at him. While doing so, Rylan's voice calls out, "Oh, look who it is. We caught up to y'all. What are the odds?" He starts walking down the hill toward his teammates who happen to be mingling with the armored team of nobles. They seem to be talking about the higher floors of the labyrinth. I follow Rylan and we make our way down to greet them. The noble team leader turns to greet us, but a surprised expression followed by a grin creeps across his face when he sees me. "It's you. I was wondering where you ended up after all this time." "Well, until recently, that is." The team leader puts out a strong-looking right hand. I walk forward to shake it to be polite. I've completely forgotten his name, so I hope he introduces himself again. "It's me, George Arden III. You're Jay, right? One of the first hunters to ever break through my skills' defenses. I can't forget a face like that." although you do look much older. It's been a few weeks at most. Sure, it's been a few weeks to him, but I've been through hell and back since I saw him last. I'm glad he's in such a good mood today. We're on the same side this time around, that's a relief. I swallow hard before answering, scratching the back of my head after letting go of his firm handshake. Yeah, it's been a long few weeks. The lack of sleep much be showing on my face. It's good to see you too. Looks like we both go contracted after the exams. He grins as his 3 teammates stand at the ready behind him in almost identical silver and gold armor. Yeah, we were able to manage a non-exclusive contract. I used the Arden family name to ensure a good deal for us. The director gave us clearance to farm up on the 18th floor this week. Yeti charms fetch a good price off in the lower-tier regions without higher-level labyrinth activity. I nod, putting together the puzzle pieces in my head. It seems his family is in the trade business. He said he was George Arden III. His grandfather must have taken advantage of the dungeon breaks when they were just starting up 80 years ago, or possibly during the Great War just 50 years back. This could be how they bought into a noble name. It's just my theory for now. I'm not one to pry. Either way, I'm happy he's so friendly with me all of a sudden. The tall, armored noble continues to speak. I heard through the grapevine that you'll be one of the Vice Region's elite this year, along with that girl that wields ice magic. Maria, I believe her name was. I'm unsure where he got this information so fast. I tighten my gaze. Then, in a polite manner, it seems to be the case. Why? He bows his head slightly. Once your elite training is complete, I humbly ask for you and your team to visit my estate just east of the capital. I'm sure it would be a profitable meeting for both of us in many ways. He smiles as I think about his offer. He's met me one time in the past so far. Although we ended our clash with a tie, I haven't exactly done anything to get on this noble's good side. This title of elite must mean more than I thought it did. I let out a thin smile and respond. Sure. I have a lot of missions ahead, so it'll be quite a while, but I won't pass up your offer. How can I dash? He cuts me off. Very well. Just ask any association higher up about the Arden family. They'll point you in the right direction. I nod slowly as he begins to turn back to his team, waving and giving me a last word of goodbye. I'm glad we met again, Jay. Looking forward to doing business with you in the near future. I scrunch my eyebrows, still a bit confused about this entire situation. I respond as he completely ignores Rylan and his squad members and jumps into the open boss room portal with his team. See ya dash. They're gone, leaving us in the empty fields of the miniature Great Plains. The redhead meets back up with his team while I continue to think about the interaction I just fumbled myself into. I guess that's just another thing I have to add to my long list of things to do. I hear Rylan's voice call out to me. Hey Jay, it was a nice walk up here. My team is about to move up to the 17th floor to face the high ogres like we've been training for all this time. Care to join us in the boss fight? I assume you'll be climbing higher too, right? I smirk. It was a pleasure climbing with you as well. Maybe I'll see you later or when I meet back up with Fisher in a few days. I'm gonna stay here and farm some more mana crystals for a few hours before heading up. Gotta hit that quota. He nods with a cheerful smile, turning to enter the spinning gray portal himself. You got that right. We'll be setting up camp to sleep in a few hours back here on the 16th floor once we're done farming for a bit. If you need a place to rest after training, come back and stay with us. He throws me a day's worth of food and water, then disappears into the portal with his teammates. I wave goodbye. Take care, see ya. Once they're gone, I let out the longest exhale of my life. Finally, I get to solo hunt again. Without another moment of hesitation, I activate my Dungeon Walker skill and teleport straight up to the 19th floor. It's time to test out the limits of my newly upgraded mana control. Chapter 171. In the blink of an eye, I'm back. I open up my item storage and use enemy detection to scan my surroundings. Ember flies out and stretches his wings. We're back. I smirk. Indeed we are. I've been climbing the labyrinth floors for hours. Too many hours. But I can't let any more time be wasted. I have plenty of energy left and I'm itching to use it all up. Reaching my enemy detection skill to the depths of the 19th floor, I locate that red-skinned 4M tall level 408 creature once again. I place my hand on Ember's wing and teleport back to that glossy square-shaped battlefield. Waiting patiently, the respawned Berserker giant going turns its head to me, showing off that toothy grin I know so well. Its green eyes lock on me and the beast begins charging forward at once. Ember flies up into the sky to let me handle this one alone. I take out my blade and begin powering up a strike as the monster approaches from roughly 100 m away. Its heavy feet crack the ground as runs at me, showing a murderous look in its eyes. I smirk, standing in place while I grip my red glowing blade. The beast comes closer and closer. I feel the ground shake as it approaches, but continue to focus on refining my attack to its full potential. In just 10 seconds, I managed to charge up over 450 MP worth of energy into a paper-thin strike. With a yell of excitement, I let the black crescent of mana fly. It's silent, soaring through the air with ease as the Berserker plows toward me, not thinking twice about the powerful energy attack aimed straight at its torso. Moments before impact, I watch the dense mana shielding appear as my attack threatens to make contact with the monster's chest plate. Without a hint of resistance, it glides right through. Less than 10 m in front of me, I watch my dark blade of fire slice this Berserker in half without slowing down for a second. The creature's eyes open wide as it realizes its fate. Both halves of the beast still rocket toward me with impressive momentum. I airstep out of the way to watch the bloody mess roll to a stop over 30 meters behind me. Letting out a chuckle, I look up to the sky to see Ember watching with great satisfaction. He speaks to me through our link. It looks like your month of training has definitely paid off. Shall we continue to climb? I grin at the dark black dragon in the sky. I can tell he's just as eager to gain more levels, just like me. His next rank up is definitely one of the only things on his mind. I admire Ember for that. He doesn't care about much else. Me neither. I walk over to the dissolving corpse and pick up the lone mana crystal it drops. I throw it into my stash and drink an MP potion from my storage. There's nearly an unlimited supply of these association-funded potions. It'll take me forever to run through them. I'll use them while I can. I begin air-stepping up to the dragon hovering high in the sky, then get on Ember's back. We begin soaring around the 19th floor dungeon for the next hour or so, hunting berserkers on sight. Most of them are around levels 402 to 404. I vary my energy slashes and begin to keep a record of how well they perform. The minimum amount of MP used while at the correct hair-thin width is just about 300 MP. I can manage one of these in just about 3 seconds now. Any lower than that, and the monster in question needs to be weakened before a less charged slash can do any damage. Once my tests are complete, I've farmed around 5k MP worth of crystals and the two of us fly off to the boss room together. The longer I charge my attack's top 4, the less MP I'm able to efficiently store into the attack. Soaring deeper and deeper into the back of the dungeon with gray skies and a jagged glossy black landscape below, my excitement grows. I grip my sword tightly. Both Ember and I burst into flames as the spinning gray portal comes into view. The dragon's voice rings out in my head through our telepathic link. I believe you're more than ready for this, but it would still be wise to stay cautious. Would you like me to leave the battling to you? I smirk. Take out the lesser mobs if any spawn in my way. Leave the boss for me. Understood. We continue to soar downward, and I jump off Ember's back to hit the crystal-like ground with a loud thud. Fragments of dark stone fly up in the air from beneath my feet as I face the spinning portal of energy less than 3 meters away from my face. Let's do this. I begin to shine red and gold while my sword glows crimson and the flames burn hot all around me. Ember does the same, glowing red and burning with dark flickering flames. We step through and enter the 19th floor boss room. As we do, I look around at the odd environment we've stepped into. The floor, curved walls, and dome-like ceiling are all made out of the same fragmented black crystal-like rock. There's no sign of a light source in sight, but the inside of the room is well lit. The floor area is circular, about 100 meters in diameter, and the ceiling goes up about 50 meters into the air. is deathly silent. All I can hear is the light crackling of my flames. Ember flaps his wings and flies up into the sky while speaking to me through our link. Here it comes. There seems to be only one boss. I'll take care of its dozen or so underlings. The moment Ember's words hit my inner ear, my enemy detection senses start to go off like crazy. The monsters are here. From the back of the boss room, I see a stampede of 4M tall berserker giants come charging towards me. They're all levels 402 to 408. Each one of them stares at me with jagged teeth, sharp green eyes, and long silver swords. I watch Ember swoop down from above, letting out a thick beam of dark fire magic from his mouth. It collides with the incoming horde of monsters, and half of them are engulfed in the hot flames. Some jump in the air to attack the flying dragon, but Ember is fully prepared. With his dark crimson mana-imbued claws at the ready, I watch 3 red-skinned berserker giants get torn in half in a matter of seconds. The battle is on. I grin, facing forward as a menacing figure approaches from the back of the room. Heavy footsteps make the ground shake, and I hear the thuds approaching through the screeches and cries of berserkers getting mutilated by Ember. I air-step forward to face whatever monstrosity approaches. I'm shaking with excitement and eager for a hard battle ahead. I fly over the pit of flames and destruction below to finally see the enormous beast in all its glory. It resembles the berserker giants I've faced before, but stands over 6M tall, plated head to toe with silver armor, tightened with thick leather-like straps and lined in golden accents. Its chest, arms, and legs are all covered, but its bright red skin bulges at the seams with large muscles and thick veins. The monster glows red as it wields a long, shining silver sword. The creature's white teeth, long tongue, and sharp green eyes stare deep into my soul as I hit the ground with a thud. My feet crack the glossy black floor on impact. With a dark burning fire behind me and a 6M tall giant in front, I use inspect and appraisal to see what exactly I'm dealing with. LV 421. Active items. Berserker King's armor set. Blood bonded plus 73% defense. Berserker King's long sword. Blood bonded plus 1250 attack plus 600 agility. Active skills. Swordsmanship. Berserker. Final breath. Special grade. My eyes light up as my flames all grow higher and higher, engulfing everything around me in a 5M radius. My dark red aura mixed with shimmers of gold clashes with the berserker's red glow. It spots me and lets out a murderous roar. I grip my flaming blade and begin to charge MP into it as the monster before me starts making its move. Cracking the hard ground with every step, it jumps my way with surprising speed. I dodge to the left, assisted by wind magic to increase my speed while narrowly avoiding its long silver sword. I continue to charge up my attack. Gritting my teeth, I watch the monster turn the moment it realizes its attack has missed, swinging its long blade with scary precision toward me without hesitating for a second. It's working off of pure battle instincts, and it's very skilled. While the monster's movements are quick, its long arms make each swing very predictable. I air-step further away, putting distance between myself and the beast. Fires rage on behind me as Ember continues to massacre the berserker's minions. As the boss makes its move in for a third attack, my first 10-second charge is ready to release. Roughly 450 MP is stored up in a thin black blade. I let it fly. The massive Berserker King keeps its trajectory moving forward without batting an eye. A slash that can cut its underlings in half like butter rockets toward it without making a sound. As the crescent of mana hits the monster's chest plate, a grin creeps across my face. I watch it sink in without any resistance. I activate my all-seeing eye, watching my blade of fire penetrate the dense armor's built-in mana shielding. Next, there's a white flash of light followed by an enormous explosion of dark red flames. The king roars from inside the bright ball of fire that appears before my eyes. I air-step back up into the sky. The monster doesn't slow down in its charge one bit. The berserker plows forward engulfed in a ball of flames, swinging its long silver sword. I smirk, charging up my blade again. It looks like this boss is tougher than I predicted. The flames slowly clear and the monster turns to face me as I air-step back down to the hard floor. My smirk widens as I catch a glimpse of its chest plate torn to shreds and cut clean down the middle. My attack destroyed it almost completely in one shot. A long open wound is visible across its chest where the armor broke. Fire burns around the bloodied area and dark red liquid drips to the ground as the flames burn the gash shut. I've charged up another attack almost halfway when I see the armor begin to glow with a dim white light. The Berserker King stares me down while putting out the flames on its chest with an open palm. Each time it pats the dark fire, a white glow shines. Its armor begins to shine with this same white light. My jaw drops as I watch the chest plate that I just sliced in two meld itself before my eyes. Each half comes together in a brilliant white glow before fading away to show a completely undamaged set of armor. I grip my blade tighter and imbue more mana inside it, readying myself for the next stage of our battle. Gritting my teeth, I stare right back at the beast before me and whisper under my breath with a grin. It seems like this is going to be a good fight. Chapter 172. I can feel the heat of Ember's fire burning hot behind me as he tears the group of Berserker underlings limb from limb. I'm faced off against the boss, a 6M ball red-skinned giant with armor that heals itself after being struck. This monster is even able to put out my advanced fire magic with its bare hands. My excitement is hard to contain. I continue to charge up my blade, air-stepping to the side as the agile monster jumps forward at me. By now, I've plotted enough jump points in this boss room to begin using my Dungeon Walker ability instead of just air-stepping around. I grab an MP potion from my item storage as the long-limbed monster turns to fly at me again. It shows its sharp white teeth, stares forward with unwavering green eyes, and swings its long silver sword with incredible precision. Unfortunately, I'm too quick. This mid-range battle style I've been using lately isn't my preferred method of getting my much-needed adrenaline rush. Until I can master this new mana control technique, I can't just jump in with my blade swinging. I'd be no better off than the Berserker going mad for a fight right in front of me. I teleport away as the beast slashes at me again. It follows through into empty space, letting out a frustrated roar. It's been nearly 20 seconds now. I've charged up over 650 MP into one attack. I'd like to get a full 60 seconds in, but it'll be tough in this environment. I let the mana strike soar from a distance. This monster may be strong and agile in its own right, but my speed and skill set have it outmatched. There's over 500,000 MP in my storage ready for use. I can keep this up all day. As the thin blade of highly compacted mana flies toward the monster, it runs at me with the same rage-filled glare. The red-skinned, crimson-glowing beast storms toward me again, this time focusing its attention on the incoming black blade of fire. This Berserker may be crazy like its underlings, but it seems to have some brains. Or so I thought. The red-skinned giant raises its silver sword to block my incoming mana attack. I activate my all-seeing eye to watch the clash of magic take its course. A thick layer of mana shielding is summoned all around the monster's sword, similar to its chest plate. I gulp but watch eagerly. Is it really about to try and block a strike with this much power? My eyes open wider, and my clenched jaw tightens as the crescent of blackened energy gets closer and closer to the monster's shining silver sword. Then, it makes contact. A loud metallic clang begins echoing throughout the dome-shaped boss room. The collision in question isn't exactly what I expected it would be, though. As my energy blade hits the Berserker's dense mana shield around its sword, the crescent of fire slides through without a sound. Its trajectory stays on course for the monster's neck. The surprised creature in question regrets its decision to block almost immediately. It realizes its lapse in judgment and attempts to move its body out of the way. Unfortunately for the boss, it's too late. My slash hits its left shoulder at point-blank range, slipping through its armor like butter. A white light flashes, nearly blinding me on the spot. A loud clanging sound of mana on mana echoes throughout the boss room. I hear a roar from the beast as it's clearly hit by my slash. Through the bright light, I watch the top half of its silver sword fall to the ground with a clang. The sliced area shows off a glossy texture just like the rocks I cut in half while training. As the sword's broken part hits the ground, the white glow from before explodes into an eruption of dark flames. It took well over a full second to explode. This might be a good sign. I air-step back as I watch the fire dissipate and the growing red aura of the Berserker King grow in size. Without thinking twice, I reach into my item storage to grab another MP potion, bringing me up to a full bar. I begin charging up my blade again. A murderous roar fills the dungeon's boss room completely. I air-step higher and higher into the sky, looking down at the beast. A toothy grin creeps across my face as the monster's left arm falls to the ground with a thud covered in dense fire residue. Screeching with fury, green eyes locked on me. From over 30 meters below me, I watch the beast's blood boil. Its eyes tighten their gaze on me, and it continues to show me all of its shining white teeth. It squats down, then launches itself upwards, attempting to meet me in the air. I air-step even higher, but the monster's launch velocity outmatches my current flight speed. With a missing arm, flaming left side, and desolated army of minions below, this monster doesn't flinch for a second to jump right back into the fight. I dungeon walk back to the glossy black floor below. The ground is cracked and shattered from our short brawl. I look to my side to see Ember sitting on a pile of defeated berserker corpses torn to shreds. Not a single one remains in one piece. A loud crash sounds from above. Large black boulders and shards of hard crystal fall from the sky as the Berserker King collides with the top of the dome. I grit my teeth, plant my feet, and continue to charge my blade. It's been almost 10 seconds, but this isn't even close to enough charge to take out this creature. I look up as I hear the loud bang followed by splintering stone. A wide crack appears in the ceiling above and portions of it begin to fall. A dark red aura seeps out from the area that the boss collided with directly above me. It seems to be lodged deep into the rock structure at the top of the dome. I smirk. I'll have just enough time. Pushing my body and mind to the limits, I glow gold and red while concentrating with my all-seeing eye to create a precise slash. The massive chunks of rock that fall from the sky all around me begin to hit the floor with loud thuds, shaking the ground from all angles. A roar from the Berserker King shakes the room, adding to the chaos. I begin to do a combination of air steps and dungeon walks to avoid the falling rubble while keeping an eye on the glowing red crater above me. After 5 seconds of dodging fallen dungeon mass goes by, my opponent finally joins in on the fun. I watch from afar as it peeks out from its crater in the ceiling to once again lock its sharp green eyes on me. I dart across the boss room floor and it follows like a hawk stalking its prey. I take a deep breath in and out as the monster leaps out, jumping from each falling boulder to increase its speed of descent. It loosens up the last remaining rocks above, creating what looks like a falling wall of stone behind it. The shattered sword in its hand begins to glow with a faint white light. Then the shine begins to grow. It gets brighter and brighter, just like the armor piece from before. As it nears, the full length of its silver sword comes into view once again. It grew back. This fight is just getting started. I let my attack full of 650 MP fly once again. The last one of this magnitude that I threw was powerful enough to take the Berserker's arm clean off. This creature is falling straight at me. It has no way of dodging a mid-air strike. I grin, air-stepping backward to move out of the way of more fallen rubble as I watch my thin black blade soar toward the monster above. With my perception skill on full blast, I eagerly await the beast's next move. It raises its sword to activate its mana shielding. A dense wall of mana forms, but yet again, my slash glides right through. It doesn't slow down one bit. Filled with rage, the monster's eyes widen, and its red aura seeps out even more as it realizes its fatal error for the second time. My dark fiery slash hits its chest plate head-on, slipping through its next layer of defenses with ease. Once it makes contact with the boss monster's skin, hitting its final mana shielding, a bright white flash envelopes the entire beast. An explosion of dark flames follow, lighting up the sky with red and white light. I dungeon walk away, near the side of the boss room where Ember and I entered. I need to get as far away from the blast zone as possible. The monster hits the boss room floor with a ground-shaking thud. The wall of heavy boulders and rock fragments follow its descent, crunching the beast, piling up over 15 meters high. Flames surge from beneath the rock pile, making their way through to the surface. I let out a laugh and raise my sword, waiting for the familiar sound of leveling notifications to ring out in my ear. A few seconds pass. The flames burn bright, but my satisfying rings never come. I begin to slowly walk over to the pile of rubble while charging my blade up once again. This is a tough one, isn't it? I'm standing about 30 meters away. Rocks from above have mostly stopped falling. There are small fragments still making their way down, but the bigger boulders have all hit the floor. Dark red fire crackles beneath the pile of fallen stone. I clench my jaw, moving closer and closer with my sword at the ready. Then, I hear it. Near the backside of the massive pile of stone, shifts in the debris begin to move the rubble. Flames rise and fall. The Berserker King tears its way out of the stone prison. Rock is thrown into the air in all directions, and a loud murderous roar echoes throughout the boss room once again. It rises from the grave and begins walking toward me with slow and calculated ground-breaking steps. Surrounded by a new jet-black aura, the boss now sports a deep bloody wound across its chest along with its missing arm from my prior strike. The Berserker King stares me down with those sharp green eyes like our battle is just beginning. I stare back, grinning ear to ear, glad that it finally has. Chapter 173. The 6-meter-tall menace stands before me, bloodied and torn to shreds by my last attacks. It's missing an arm, has a wide-open wound in its chest, and can't possibly be on more than 10% health after the avalanche of rock that fell on it from above. A dim light glows around its right hand and torso. The fragments of sword and armor that remain on its beaten body begin to materialize back into their original forms. The jet-black aura that surrounds this beast reeks of death. It must be one of its skills. Still charging my own blade, ready for battle, I stare the monster right back in its sharp green eyes. They almost look like they're glowing through the thick dark cloud surrounding the boss. I blink and the creature is gone. My heart skips a beat. In what seems like no time at all, this beaten beast sprints toward me with blinding speed. It must be twice as fast as before. I watch its silver sword come dangerously close to my midsection, less than 2 meters away. I dungeon walk to a safe distance the moment my brain catches up to the situation at hand. Now, on the opposite side of the boss room, I put these new pieces of the puzzle together in my mind. Its third skill, Final Breath. Even from its name, it sounds like an ability that boosts the user's stats at a moment just before death. The creature is on its final few HP, so that must be a trigger to activate this skill. All I have to do is land one final hit, but all it has to do is land one me. I grin with excitement as the red-skinned monster with a veil of black glowing mist all around it tracks me down and begins to run full force in my direction. Waves of rock fly up in the air on both sides of the charging menace. The speed is astounding. With a trail of dark aura streaming behind it, I have to dungeon walk out of its way to dodge mere seconds after its sprint begins. It clears over 100 meters in the blink of an eye. Black stone crashes to the ground, leaving a long hole all the way across in the center of the boss room. I grit my teeth as it circles back and runs at me again. Keeping my weapon charged, I continuously adjust my aim to never turn my back on this beast. I air-step upwards, trying to gain distance while drinking MP potions to keep all of my abilities fully charged. The monster jumps up to follow along without a second of hesitation. The 50-meter-high ceiling doesn't limit its range in the slightest. I blip around the battlefield, trying to avoid its constant attacks, burning through MP potions and charging my attack up to 650 MP. My dungeon walker skill is being pushed top the limits. My blade is glowing hot, fully charged. I lock eyes on the menace as it tears through the rock below, making our battlefield more and more of a war scene by the second. Deep pits and high piles of rock are being thrown about as I dungeon walk across the sky and landscape below. Using my all-seeing eye, I follow the fast-moving beast's movements as it follows mine. It lunges into the air for another strike. This is it. I let my attack soar, The 650 MP black blade of flames comes rocketing out of my sword, and I dungeon walk away to safety. Looking up at the sky from below, I watch eagerly for my attack to finally blow the boss to pieces. It will at least damage the monster, I'm betting on that. The berserker flying at my attack knows the painful feeling of colliding with this black blade very well. It has taken 2 of them at point-blank range in the past. For some reason, it wants to take this attack head-on anyway. A grin creeps across my face as I watch the approaching crescent of dense flames collide with the silver sword of the Berserker King. Fully expecting it to glide right through and finish the monster off, I thrust my sword in the air to celebrate. I stop mid-thrust with my eyes and mouth wide open. An ear-shattering clang rings out in the boss room. It blocked my attack. The strike that previously took off its arm and shattered its armor without a problem is being held back with ease by the monster's long silver sword. A bright flash of light appears on impact as my slash comes to a halt against the mana shielding around its blade. It lets out a roar, pushing its blade upwards and deflecting my attack up to the already shattered ceiling. It explodes into a display of dark flames, knocking more rubble loose from above. The beast learns from its previous fall and begins jumping from boulder to boulder, staying high up in the air to avoid being crushed under the rock pile this time around. I grit my teeth, beginning to charge my blade up again in frustration while dungeon walking away to avoid the incoming fallen ceiling. Burning hot with flames, I watched the beast form afar. It blocked that attack with ease, meaning its newest skill has even boosted its mana control capabilities. Such a skill must come with a cost. It may have near unlimited endurance and heightened abilities now, but it'll run out at some point. Energy can't just be created from thin air, can it? I open up my telepathic link. Ember, can you hear me? Of course, Master. From the backside of the boss room, patiently waiting atop a pile of dissolved berserkers, the black-scaled dragon stretches its wings and hovers over to me. I watch the king above begin to fall towards us, its eyes locked on me from across the rocky arena. I hear a light thud behind me as Ember lands, crackling with a light layer of flames surrounding its body. I smirk. We're gonna take this boss out together. Keep it busy while I get an attack ready. No matter what, I need to have the final hit. Ember flaps his wings with a toothy grin. Understood. I drink an MP potion, focusing on my sword while I watch the 7-meter-long glossy black dragon fly towards a falling monster surrounded with a black aura of death. Gritting my teeth, I get ready to step in and teleport Ember out of danger in case this creature is too much to handle. My worries are lifted seconds later as the loud clang of mana on mana echoes through my ears. Ember's red claws collide with the heavy silver sword of the Berserker King. My all-seeing eye picks up on 2 dense mana shield clashing, but Ember's is by far the dominant force. A flash of white light is followed by a ball of dark flames to come shooting out of the black dragon's mouth. He flaps his wings and flies into the sky, leaving the boss engulfed in flames and roaring with fury. It's unable to put out the dense, advanced fire magic. I smirk, air-stepping closer, watching my battle partner toss around the berserker with ease. The monster completely changes its focus, jumping up into the air, following Ember to the sky. The dragon blows another attack full of flames down to cover the beast on its way up, then blocks its incoming sword with a graceful swing of its clawed front leg. Another flash of white light blinds my view as a roar from the king sounds out. I watch it fall to the ground with a loud thud. More rock flies and the beast jumps up again in retaliation, trying to catch the dangling prize up the sky. Ember continues to dodge its futile attempts and blocks its sword with precise movements. The berserker is definitely faster, but Ember is picture-perfect with every black and uses denser mana shielding than anything I've ever seen. There seems to be many more perks from absorbing full pocket detention's worth of mana than just the levels, without the pressure of having to dodge endless attacks from the boss. Charging up my own is much easier. Another half a minute goes by and I've managed to ready a strike even more powerful than the one that pierced Fisher's shielding. There's over 1200 MP stored in this attack. I'm not messing around. This will be the one to end it, and I'm making sure of that. I call for Ember though our telepathic link. Playtime is over, Let's finish this. Locking eyes with the flaming dragon from over 70 meters away, I take in the full view of the battlefield. Ember is high in the sky and the boss is preparing for another jump. I dungeon walk above Ember, matching his flames and gripping my glowing blade. Dive! Without a word, Ember's flames explode into an even more dazzling display, and he tilts his head to the ground. The berserker below sees us, locking its sharp, glowing eyes on me through its ominous aura. I see its jagged teeth gleam with a white shine as it jumps in the air. It rockets up, us as we soar down. With a yell, I jump off of Ember's back and fly straight at the beast. My smile widens even more than the battle friend I'm facing. Swinging my sword across my body with all my might, I let the full-powered slash fly. A dense black blade shoots from my sword. I follow through close behind it. The thin crescent of energy slices through the air in silence as the berserker readies its sword to block. Full of confidence in my abilities, I continue to fall, watching the collision happen right in front of my eyes. It makes contact, then glides right through. Its shining silver sword doesn't slow the dark crescent of fire down one bit. Neither does its armor. Lastly, its final layer of mana shielding is pierced without a hint of resistance. My attack glides straight through without a sound. The monster's eyes widen, but it's too late to react. This battle is over. The beast splits in two before my eyes. I continue my descent as the monsters have passed me on both sides. Before hitting the hard black ground below, Ember swoops in to catch me on his back. Simultaneously, the sweet sound of leveling notifications finally hits my inner ear. Level up! Level up! Level up! I let out a joy-filled yell, thrusting my sword in the air, annoying victory for real this time. The two halves of the flaming berserker corpse hit the ground with loud thuds moments later as we soar over to check out the body. 2 boxes of blue text fill my vision as we approach. Use absorption, special grade. Skill. Final breath, special grade. Yes. No. Use absorption, special grade. Stat, strength. Amount. Plus 81. Yes. No. We glide down to the ground, and I choose yes on both options without batting an eye. The black aura surrounding the fallen monster fades, and the beast dissolves into the boss room floor almost immediately. The sound of metal hitting rock fills my ears as I see a silver and gold set of lightweight armor hit the dungeon floor next to a large mana crystal. Immediately, I use appraisal. Berserker King's armor set. Unbonded plus 73% defense. Hopping off Ember's back, I examine the Berserker King's item drop. It's a full set of armor, and will only take up 1 item slot. I'll have to talk to Brianna, the legendary crafter, about this blood-bonded versus unbonded item tag. I can only assume she would know about such a thing. Grinning, and placing the full lightweight armor set into my item storage, I open up my status to look at how much I've grown. Status open. Name J Soju. Level 412. HP 2065/2065.
Mepe. 720-2065.
Strength 1096 plus 1217 plus 548. Speed 1194 plus 716 plus 597. Agility 1291 plus 581 plus 646. Defense 902 plus 361 plus 451. Mental strength 1015 plus 609 plus 406 plus 457 plus 832 plus 508. Skills: absorption, special grade, swordsmanship, combat magic, advanced fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, special grade, spatial magic, item storage, plunder, telekinesis, appraisal, special grade, Conceal, special grade. Berserker. Dungeon Walker, special grade. Intimidation. Dagger Mastery. Stealth. Bloodlust. Equivalent exchange. Combat Magic. Wind Summoning. All-Seeing Eye. Extreme Strength. Dual Wielding, special grade. Telepathy. Legendary grade. Final Breath, special grade. Items equipped. High Ogre King's Ring, plus 60% mental strength. Cyclops Eye Pendant, plus 40% defense. Dark Elf Boots, plus 60% speed. Griffin's Talon, plus 40% mental strength. Serpent King's Scale, plus 45% agility, plus 45% magic resistance. Desert Troll's Charm, plus 45% mental strength. The Flame Emperor's Sword, Fire Aspect, plus 111% strength, plus 82% mental strength. Greater Demon's Core plus 50% all stats. Lenses of Illusion. White transfer magic appears moments later, and we disappear from the 19th floor. When my vision returns, I let out a light gasp as I find myself in a dimly lit hallway about 5 meters wide. Dark rock lines the walls, and the light flickering of Ember's flames allows me to see all the way to the end. It leads up to another boss room portal no more than 30 meters away. Chapter 174. This place seems familiar. I peer down the long, narrow hallway at the gray spinning portal near the back edge. The place feels oddly similar to the small dark hallway that I crossed to get to the boss room during the C-class exams. It's just like the boss room portal at the top of the labyrinth. I open my link with Ember and hear the dragon's voice in my inner ear. It seems we've made our way to a lower floor boss. You did say this was the 20th, right? I nod, walking down the hallway while I reply. It should be the 20th, yes. I wasn't exactly expecting this. What's a lower floor boss? Ember's flames fill the narrow room, illuminating our surroundings as he explains. In larger labyrinths, levels of difficulty are usually split into 20 floor segments. Each segment has a floor boss, protecting their assigned portion of the labyrinth. It allows the demon and dragon up top to safely continue absorbing mana, while hunters face the bosses below. I grin, coming face to face with the portal at the end of the long hallway. Ember continues. These boss rooms are usually pretty big and intricate. There tend to be more monsters to farm inside. You'll be able to train before the fight if you wish. I'd like to do some hunting myself. I step through the mass of spinning mana, motioning Ember to follow. Sounds good to me. Moments later, both of us slip through into the 20th floor. Or rather, the first lower floor boss lair. Immediately, I go back into attack mode from the extreme heat that shocks my system. Feels like I've been thrown into a pit of flames. In fractions of a second, sweat begins to drip from my pores as my body attempts to cool itself. I hit the floor with a thud. The black-scaled dragon and I both land on a hard dark gray rocky surface. There's a fairly flat stone that juts out about 20 meters in all directions. The exit portal spins right behind us, and the view before my eyes leaves me in a state of shock. For as far as I can see in all directions, there's a bubbling pit of lava. It's dark red and orange, with hot steam coming up in the air. It makes the atmosphere waver in my line of sight. Small boulder-like islands, just like the one we're standing on, peek through the molten rock every couple hundred meters for as far out as I can see. It'd be near impossible to navigate this dungeon without a flight ability. I can't picture any normal hunter making it far into this hellscape without burning to a crisp. I gulp but grin soon after, opening my link with Ember. He's the first to speak. The floor boss isn't far, the one you call the Behemoth. It's about 3 kilometers in that direction. Ember points a front claw off into the distance. I nod with appreciation, but I could have easily figured this out myself. There's something else he wants to say. I look up at the dragon, who seems to be deep in thought. What is it? Ember replies after a pause. Well, that was a good battle we just fought. Though, to face what's ahead, your mana control needs a lot of work. I stare out into the open lava pools, spotting the shadow outline of an ominous structure towering high in the sky near the back of the dungeon. I reply, "Understood. We're just getting started." I airstep upward to hop on Ember's back, continuing my thought. Let's see what kind of mobs spawn in this dungeon. You're right, I'll need to get some training in before we face the behemoth, but let's at least get to that structure back there, so I can set a dungeon walker spawn point. I pause for a moment. If worst comes to worst, we can make a quick pit stop by the Great Plains. I'm sure there's been more than enough time for at least one Titan to come crawling back. I smirk as Ember nods his head. Agreed. With a strong flap of his wings, Ember lifts off from the island in the middle of an ocean of lava. We begin our flight towards the back of the lower floor boss room just like that. This is the final boss of my assignment. The monster at the back of this dungeon separates the normal hunters of the world from the elites. I can't hold back the smile that creeps across my face. One life-threatening battle after the next. I missed this so much. Although Ember is right, I need to work on my control. Charging up attacks for a full minute isn't exactly a technique I can use for every battle. It'll become rather troublesome the higher up I progress. To be honest, it already has. It's just hard to admit it. I speak to Ember through our link. How exactly do you produce mana shielding? In that last battle, I watched you make a shield denser than anything I've seen before. You even covered your claws with it to use as an offensive technique. Could you teach me how to do this too? As we soar up into the sky and the air gets much cooler. The lava pit below is the source of this dungeon's immense heat.
Ember responds.
Mana shielding comes naturally to me. For you, it's not such an easy task. Why's that? Monsters are much more adept at shielding and other mana techniques at lower levels than humans because we're made entirely from pure mana. Humans were born into a realm of pure mass, only to be invaded by foreign mana from our realm. I pause, taking in this information as the dragon glides further into the dungeon and closer to the shadowy rectangular-shaped outline that keeps getting bigger and bigger. Humans are able to wield mana, but aren't entirely born from it. It has seeped into your atmosphere and become one with the world you live in. You'll need to consume much more pure MP if you'd like to master this technique. There are workarounds, but you don't possess the skill necessary at the moment. You'll just need to consume more mana. That's the only way. I remember back to when Fisher said that mana shielding was a tier 1 technique. He also said I'm a tier 0. It seems Ember and Fisher are in agreement here. I need more mana, and much more training with said mana. I need to get stronger. We continue to fly higher up, further from the bubbling rock below us, making our way toward the backside of this dungeon in the meantime. It's much cooler up here. The hot stream from below rises and dissipates more the higher in altitude we climb. There's no ceiling to this dungeon, or at least not one that I can sense. I take a breath of fresh air as the wind flies by me on all sides. Looking far into the back of the dungeon, now that the heat waves and stream clouds are below us, that ominous structure comes into full view. I whisper under my breath as I take in the sight before me. Is that a castle? The outline of an impossibly large stone castle looms in the distance. Ember flies downward to get a better view. It sits on a large landmass that rises high above the lava pools below, making steep cliffs. The circular island looks to be 1 kilometer in diameter and juts up over the lava about 100 meters high. The stone castle at the center of the high-risen island looks desolate and gives off an eerie hum of mana. There seems to be a wide-open arching gate at the entrance that leads to an abandoned courtyard. Touches burn on high pillars welcoming us toward the massive structure before us. Ember flies down to hit the hard ground, 50 meters or so in front of the open front door, begging us to come inside. I jump off his back, gripping my sword and beginning to charge an attack out of instinct. Something about all of this doesn't feel right. There's a dense sensation of mana in the air all around me, and a light buzzing noise fills my ears. Something is definitely nearby. I activate my all-seeing eye along with my enemy detection skills, and I'm hit with a whirlwind of notifications. There's dozens of level 430 monsters nearby, but they're nowhere in sight. I gulp, still charging my sword and inching closer to the stone archway in front of me. Ember follows. We make our way through the gate. My jaw is clenched and I hold my breath, darting my eyes back and forth to try and spot one of these enemies popping up on my radar. The ground in the courtyard is made of square stones. There's a high wall another 40 meters away with a tall locked gate. It's the main entrance to the castle. Looking left and right, the wall stretches to the far side of the island and curves around it on each side. I stare up at the high wall and think about air-stepping over to get into the inner castle walls. My thoughts are rudely interrupted by the heavy clicking sound of metal on metal from behind the front gate. I watch the massive iron doors slowly open and a glimmer of silver armor peeks through. The heavy doors scrape across the stone floor as it opens, letting out a disturbing sound. I continue to charge my blade and move closer in toward the danger. The enemies behind the iron door finally come into full view. It looks like someone came to greet us. Chapter 175. Through the heavy iron doors, I watch over 24 3-meter-tall suits of silver armor walk out. They all seem to have humanoid-looking bodies, but there's no gaps in the armor at all. I can't see what their base forms look like. They carry silver swords and make loud metallic thuds of metal on stone with every step. They march out in a line without missing a beat. The buzzing sound and tingling feeling of mana in the air begins to grow, making it hard to hear myself think. I boost my perception skill along with inspect and appraisal to analyze the opponents before me. LV 430. Active items. Enchanted armor set plus 1750 defense. Enchanted long sword plus 1750 strength. Active skills. None. With a puzzled look on my face, I scan each and every one of the slowly approaching armored guards. They're all the same. Exactly the same. Every last one of them is level 430, and they all have the same armor and sword without a single skill. What is going on here? My sword is charged up nearly halfway, a 30-second burst of about 675 MP. My recent level-ups have given me a slight boost in charging speed. I continue to slowly approach, watching one of the knights break their symmetrical line formation and begin moving at me with increased speed. I let out an exhale, then run forward at the knight to match its speed. I wanted to test out the base mobs here, so that's exactly what I'll do. Once within a 10-meter range, I swing my sword and let the blade of energy fly. Cautiously, I dungeon walk backward to watch the attack unfold. It collides with the Silver Knight's long sword, letting out a clang, followed by a flash of white light, then the dazzling display of a fiery explosion. Before the dust even settles, I hear the heavy metal footsteps of the knight running through the fire at me with its sword at the ready. Hardly a scratch. There's a small dent in the side of its chest plate. A few fragments of metal hit the floor, but the attack didn't hit its body, only the armor. Unfortunately, this is nowhere near enough to penetrate its defenses fully. I scoff, teleporting back even further away from this battlefield, and call out to Ember. "You're up. Take a crack at them." The black-scaled dragon nods while flapping his wings and lifting off into the air to join the brawl. He dives down on the knight that attacked me, clawing at its armor. After the sounds of metal breaking and mana shield collisions, the Silver Knight's arm tears off completely. Ember flies up into the sky as I start to charge my blade again, hesitant to even join in on this battle. My mana control is nowhere near refined enough to be of any help. I grit my teeth, watching the dragon swoop down and claw off its other arm, heavily damaging the knight's chest plate in the process. My eyes widen as I see what's inside the suit, or what isn't inside may be a better way of putting it. It's empty. I gulp, watching the flaming dragon tear the armor suit to shreds as the army of them stands by, letting their solider die what looks to be a painful death. Almost a full minute passes, and I charge 1250 MP into my sword. Ember has successfully turned the empty suit of armor into a pile of scraps. I turn my vision to the line of knights still standing by. Why aren't they attacking? I turn my head back to the fight between knight and dragon to see the armored scraps begin to move across the ground. A scraping sound fills my ears as I watch the junk metal form together and create a full suit once again. I can clearly see the cracks still there, but the suit is back together in its original form. This isn't the same as the blood-bonded armor from floor 19. Something else is definitely at play here. Ember flies down, shattering the fallen knight into hundreds of tiny pieces once again. Then, I hear another loud metallic clanging as a second silver soldier breaks formation and begins running toward me. I hear my telepathic link open up as the knight approaches. Master, these are not beings we can defeat right now. I'm aware now you're right. Let me try one last thing. Then we're out of here. Understood. The knight that broke formation runs toward me with its sword at the ready. I run at it too. My last attack was half as powerful, and it hardly even made a scratch. I'd like to see what a full power slash can do to these empty metal monsters. I run closer and closer while swinging my blade across my body, letting an attack fly, then dungeon walking a safe distance away to see the aftermath unfold. Collides with the enemy's blade, then glides right through. I smirk, watching the black fiery crescent slide through the monster's entire body next without a sound. My attack curves upward and flies off into the sky. The knight halts for a moment, then turns to my new position and continues to run at me like nothing happened. My stomach lurches as I see the slash mark appear across the soldier's chest. I split it in two, but somehow the armor set is still held together and it seems unfazed. Touring to Ember, I watch him fight off hundreds of armor fragments that continuously reform into the suit and sword, swinging attack after attack at the flaming dragon. I hear Ember's voice again. Master, I recommend we come back another time. I grit my teeth, looking up at the castle wall. The large iron gate that let out the army of knights has slowly shut. The mana in the air only gets denser and denser the further into the castle I sense. The behemoth is back there. I can't even make a scratch on its welcome committee, so there's no chance of putting up a good fight against it as I am now. You're right. We need to get much stronger. I dungeon walk over to Ember, placing a hand on his back. Then teleporting us back to the grassy rolling hills of a dungeon, I begin to like more and more every time I visit it. We're back in the Great Plains. Ember bows his head as I scan the surroundings using enemy detection. This was the right move, I can assure you. I smirk, rolling my eyes while finding two large blind spots on my radar, along with a familiar pesky duo of hunters. You're right, this is our best bet. There's two titans in range. One of them is occupied by a few hunters at the moment, so it looks like we only have one option. Ember shows me a toothy grin, replying through the link. It's time to get back to work. I smirk, air-stepping onto the dragon's back. I have about 30 days worth of food and water on my right now. Let's stay in this titan for the full time. Understood, 30 days it is. I'll adjust my mana absorption rate accordingly. We blip to the far side of the dungeon with Titan less than 500 meters away. Without a word, Ember flaps his wings and begins flying toward the jet-black 30-meter-tall walking mana pool. I just left this domain for the second time and I'm already going back. It seems like I'm spending more time in the pocket realms than I am in the real world lately. We both dive into the black being before us, plunging deep into the bottomless abyss. I'll do whatever it takes. This is the only way. After a familiar free will, we're back in the white-walled prison that recently I've come to call home. My first order of business is to get some sleep. Ember curls up in a ball and begins to glow red. I get ready for another long month of training. Once I wake up the next day back in my white-walled training room, my routine begins. The 8-hour sessions start immediately, and I'm able to run through 850 kmp on day 1 and push my training cycle to 4 days on and 1 day off. It only gets better from here. I make a mental note of each day's mana consumption while hyper-focusing on a single task. Getting strong enough to defeat the behemoth. I need to prove to the association that I'm not just some new recruit they can push around. If they want to slap the title of elite on me and try to use that as a collar, I'll bite back. I just need to be strong enough to do so without being thrown in a cage. Day 1, 850 kmp. Day 2, 875 kmp. Day 3, 885 kmp. Day 4, 890 kmp. Day 5, 200 kmp. Day 6, 910 kmp. Day 7, 915 kmp. Day 8, 915 kmp. Day 9, 910 kmp. Day 10, 200 kmp. Day 11, 915 kmp.
Total MP consumed. 8465 milion MP.
By day 11 I find the new limit to my consumption capabilities. Even after a second day of rest, it doesn't seem to raise. I've gained a few levels since the last time I trained in here, so the initial increase makes sense. A daily output of 915 kmp is more than enough to make solid progress. I continue training. Day 12, 915 kmp. Day 13, 910 kmp. Day 14, 915 kmp. Day 15, 200 kmp. Day 16, 920 kmp. Day 17, 905 kmp. Day 18, 910 kmp. Day 19, 915 kmp. Day 20, 200 kmp. Day 21, 915 kmp. Day 22, 920 kmp. Day 23, 905 kmp. Day 24, 910 kmp. Day 25, 200 kmp. Day 26, 915 kmp. Day 27, 915 kmp. Day 28, 915 kmp. Day 29, 915 kmp. Day 30, 200 kmp.
Total MP consumed. 22.965 milion MP.
Day 30 comes around and I've pushed my mana consumption to its limits, burning through another 22.965 million MP in the last 30 days. I've nearly doubled my total lifetime consumption. My body feels like it's bursting with power. When I activate my all-seeing eye, I can catch a glimpse of the abyss outside this white-walled prison without even cutting a hole through. Charging up mana into my blade has never been easier. What took me 60 seconds just a month ago can be done almost before I count to 3. I'm itching to try this out on an opponent. I am still inside the Titan's domain, so once I leave my abilities will be slightly weakened. Even so, when I battle those knights again in the outside world, I'm sure it'll play out much differently than before. My mana-absorbing loophole has come in clutch once again. I'll be back soon. I just hope the number of Titans in the Great Plains doesn't keep dropping at the rate it has been recently. As Ember finishes up with his 30 days of domain absorption, I release a slash that begins the collapse. Before we know it, both of us are standing out in the open air of the Great Plains. I activate my item storage and let Ember step inside, teleporting to the dungeon's exit portal. I step out while planning to make my way to the black market. I need to have a word with Bree about my new armor set that I picked up from the Berserker King before heading back to face the behemoth and its army of knights. Chapter 176. As I step through the dungeon's exit portal, I activate my conceal skill. I'm supposed to be in the labyrinth right now as far as the association is concerned. It'd be awfully suspicious if I showed my face around town. Not many people know me in the big city, but if I'm spotted by even one person at the association, there may be a few questions brought up that I wouldn't like to answer. One of the advanced perks of my newest upgrade to special grade concealment is the ability to put on a temporary camouflage. I activate my all-seeing eye while opening my status to recheck its full capabilities. Conceal. Info. The special grade conceal skill allows the user to edit their status with the same basic inputs as no grade. Without a legendary grade perception skill, the true nature of these modifications will remain unseen. The special grade conceal skill acts as temporary camouflage. The user may change fine details in facial features, skin shade, and eye color, along with minor height and weight modifications. Without a legendary grade perception skill, The illusion magic being used will go unnoticed by onlookers. Grade. Special grade. Upgrade. I've used this skill on my arm tattoo from the Greater Demon's Core in the past, but haven't tried it on anything larger scale. My lenses of illusion still mask my white eye color without me having to constantly use mana on my concealment skill. I take a look at them while my status is still open. Lenses of illusion. Info. A pair of contact lenses crafted using the legendary grade crafting skill and the special grade conceal skill. This item allows the user to see 25% further and change their perceived eye color at will. Class, C+. Type, single use. Durability, 6/100. I whisper under my breath. It's at 6 out of 100. Remembering back to when I bought these off of Bree, she did say they would only last me a few months. It's already been that long for me. To her, no more than a few weeks have passed. Along with the armor set, I'll need to pick up a new pair of lenses, if she has any left in stock. I'm standing in the empty black room with a moving stairway ahead of me that leads back to the C-Class gate platform. I let out a sigh and walk forward. While doing so, I put on a disguise better than any magical concealment item can produce. I turn my slim physique, black hair, dark features, and light tan skin into something entirely different, making my skin pale white, growing my hair out and bleaching it blonde, putting on 20 kilograms of muscle, and giving myself bright blue eyes. For good measure, I put on a few years of age and take the train back to the main dungeon hub. I feel exactly the same. I'm just surrounded by intense illusion magic. Passers-by see a completely different person when they look at me. I walk out of the gate with a grin across my face, looking like your average run-of-the-mill middle-aged tank. No heads turn, and I walk downtown without another thought. I should use this skill more often. It's oddly satisfying to walk around as someone else. I stop by a small local food market as I get further from the city and into a less populated part of the town. I stock up on more food and water, a 60-day supply. Even with the short breaks in between my last 2 sessions in the Titan's domain, it feels odd adjusting back to the real world. Staying in there for longer than I already have been is just asking for trouble. A 2-month supply in my item storage is enough for now. I'm getting much more used to transitioning out of the Whitewall training room, but even this time around there are some adverse side effects. It's easy to zone out doing the simplest of tasks. For example, while I'm paying the store clerk for groceries and walking out the market's front door with my cart full of food. For some reason it doesn't seem real. My mind is somewhere else. All I want to do is fight and absorb more mana. These menial tasks feel like a waste of time, although in the back of my mind I know they must be done. I shake my head as I walk out the door, realizing my mana bar is running low from using my concealment skill for too long. I open up a fresh MP potion as I store the food and water in my item storage in a small alley behind the shop. Mumbling under my breath as I finish the potion, my clarity of mind comes back to me. This will do for now, but I'll get my real fix soon enough. The battle against the behemoth I've set my eyes on will be more than enough of a reward for my hardships. Grinning, I make my way over to the rougher side of town. Before I know it, I'm approaching the 3-story brick building that houses the craftswoman that's nearly gotten me killed multiple times. I'm less than a full block away. I just keep coming back. Focusing on my concealment skill, I shape my body, hair, and facial features back to their original forms. This may be a building full of crooks, but I trust them more than anyone at the association. The people that run this underground black market businesses build their clientele by word of mouth alone. If you can't trust that, then you can't trust anything. There's no reason to screw over a returning customer. I continue walking forward to see the 2 large guards out front. The moment I come into view, one of them waves to me and shouts out, "It looks like we have a real regular on our hands, don't we? You have a meeting scheduled? Or are you just going to barge in like usual?" I confidently walk up to the large guards. The usual. I walk past, giving them a respectful nod as I do. The one who greeted me smirks and opens the door, letting me through. Ms. Brianna is upstairs. It would be wise to check with Bernard before you disturb her. I wave the nice security guard goodbye and make my way to the spiral staircase at the back of the first floor. Got it. Thanks. With a light click, the door closes behind me and I make my way up the winding metal stairs. As I make it to the second floor, I see Bernard sitting at his desk. The tall, thin man reads a small book while his blonde twin workers diligently sort and file magic items. I continue up the stairs as he looks up from his midday reading. Good to see you again, Jay. I assume you're here for a good reason. I nod while continuing to walk up the stairs. I am. He shows me a thin smile and looks back down at his book. Very well. Ms. Brianna most likely already knows you're here. Enjoy your meeting. I will. After that, I walk up to the third floor to find myself in a dark room, yet again. Slowly stepping onto the flat hardwood floor, I knock a few times on the wall, then speak up. Hello? Bree. A white light appears at the back of the room and it begins to spread out, illuminating everything in sight. This is exactly what happened the first time I came here. Bree's low, soothing voice hits my ear. Welcome back so soon. I heard you had a labyrinth mission assigned to you this week, but you're here already. What have you possibly brought me today that's so important? The tall, olive-skinned woman in tight black clothing approaches with a grin across her face. I reply while reaching into my item storage to take out the full set of lightweight armor and the sword dropped by the lower-level berserker giant. I got a few interesting item drops I'd like you to look at. She motions for me to set them on a small coffee table as she sits down on a small couch and crosses her legs. Straight to the point, as always. I place the items down with a light metallic thud. Bree begins to examine them closely. I sit down on the second couch across from her. After picking up the silver sword and touching the armor all over, she looks up at me. You already beat the 19th floor boss of the Vice City Labyrinth, didn't you? I give her a firm nod but don't say anything back. Bree continues. So, do you want to sell these? Or get them bonded? Bree continues to eye the silver berserker giant's sword, then speaks up again. It would be more of a waste to bond this sword. Your two weapons are already bonded with the same capabilities. This one just won't have any elemental perks. The craftswoman looks down at the armor set. This too. Unless your mana control is nearing tier 1 proficiency, this armor set won't be more than a stat buff for you. Although 73% defense is not bad. I assumed as much for the sword, but will this armor set really not have any special advantage even if it's blood bonded? It may still be a good investment for the future to do so now. Letting out a sigh, I respond. Just the armor set, I'd like it bonded. What'll it run me? Bree grins. How about this sword? That's more than enough pay for me. The association doesn't let items like this slip out of Labyrinth too easily. Usually, Rodrigo is my only in. You're becoming more and more of an asset, you know that, Jay? I shrug. Sure, take the sword. But, could I get another pair of those lenses of illusion? Just in case. Bree eyes me curiously, then gets up and walks over to her desk to reach into the bottom drawer. She throws me another small humming containment case with an exact replica of the lenses I purchased from her before. Bree replies, I won't ask questions I don't need answers to. The lenses are yours, free of charge. The sword covers it. Now, put out your arm. Bree walks back over to me holding a glass jar and a sharp knife. I gulp, letting out a murmur. Here we go again. The craftswoman slices open my wrist to draw blood, beginning the bonding process with my lightweight armor set. I use self-regeneration on the wound before I bleed too much and take a seat back on the couch without a drop of blood hitting the floor. You know, I'm sure there's an easier way to do all this. Bree smirks. I'm sure there is. I sigh and let out a reply. So, should I leave? I know this process usually takes a while. Bree looks down at the armor set without replying. It begins to glow with a bright white light. It even blinds me for a moment. I look away as it gets brighter and brighter over the next few seconds before fading completely. Bree lets out a chuckle. You're all set. Try it on. I blink a few times, looking down at the newly bonded armor set using appraisal. Berserker King's armor set. Blood bonded plus 73% defense. Already? Bree responds as I pick up the chest plate, revealing an empty glass jar behind it. Blood bonding without an element stone is a much easier process. It doesn't take long. Plus, it's not like I crafted the sword. I just bonded it. I nod as she points at the silver set in my hands. Try it on. Let's see how it fits. I grin, already in the process of fitting on the gold and silver suit. It magically fits my torso, arms, and legs perfectly. It almost feels like the armor pieces aren't there. I immediately feel a buff in my defenses as well. This 73% boost is nothing to laugh at. I also feel it tugging at my mana reserves, just like my sword and dagger. It's asking for a power-up. If this new gear is more than just a stat boost, maybe I'm closer to tier 1 mana control than I thought. I smirk, looking up at Bree. Fits like a glove. My next stop is the labyrinth to face the first lower floor boss. I have a date with the behemoth and its army of knights. The battle is finally about to begin. Chapter 177. I stand in the middle of Bree's upstairs office with my new blood-bonded armor set on. In less than a few seconds, it all magically tightens to fit me perfectly. My arms, legs, shoulder, chest, and back are all shielded by what seems to be a very strong metal. It's the same armor set the 19th floor boss was wearing. After all, it took quite the attack to break it open. I smirk, leaning into the familiar sensation of a blood-bonded item asking for mana reserves. It only feels natural, so I let a few hundred MP seep out from my stores. The light hum of mana fills the air. Surprisingly, it doesn't even feel like it's leaving my body. As the mana travels into the armor set, it just feels more and more like a part of my own body. I activate my all-seeing eye and a wide smile stretches across my face as I watch a thin layer of mana shielding form over the surface of all the armor pieces. Bree lets out a light gasp. You still manage to surprise once again. She smirks, looking me up and down as I goggle over my new fancy item. It is slowly consuming MP, drawing my supplies, but the invulnerability I feel right now is worth every single mana point. I can't wait to test this new armor out on the battlefield. The battlefield, back in the labyrinth. I freeze, then look up at Bree, realizing I've made quite the mistake. I happen to use conceal to leave the dungeons, but that won't work if I try to re-enter. My ID card still has my face on it. I need to scan it to get back in. Even if I put on my best disguise, it's near impossible to fake a hunter's ID. There's no one scanning or ID checking at the entrance of the starter dungeon back in my hometown, but that'll be a 2 to 3 hour wait that I'd rather not take part in right now. I reply, Hey Bree, do you know of any open access dungeons around the capital? Ones that don't ask for an ID. The craftswoman walks over to the back of the room, grabbing a small black jacket off the wall and placing it on before replying. Of course, there's a few underground dungeon hubs for people that want to dodge the association's tracking systems for various reasons. What difficulty level are you looking for? Higher ranking C-class dungeons? Or dash? Whatever is closest. E or D or C dungeons are fine. I'd just like to do a little extra mana crystal farming. Bree nods with a smile that tells me she doesn't believe a word that's coming out of my mouth but doesn't care in the slightest. She chuckles. Come on, follow me. Bree walks past me, making her way toward the stairs. I nod, following her and taking off my armor. I put it in my item storage for safekeeping. Once I'm back in the dungeons, I'll put it back on. For now, I'd rather not be seen in a full set of armor worth multiple gold coins on this side of town. She leads me all the way down to the basement, with the large metal door that opens up to the underground market. I haven't been down here in a while. My only memories of this place are the first time I wielded my fire-imbued sword. It worked out in the end, but my time in the underground fight ring wasn't exactly a walk in the park. I gulp, speaking up to Bree in a low voice as we take a left and start heading down the semi-crowded corridor full of illegal street vendors and thugs. So, I got chosen by the association to be a part of the newest team of elites. I'm not sure who else to ask about this. I guess you'd be the best one to give me advice. She turns her head back to me while keeping a steady pace forward, cutting me off with a strict tone. They chose you. I watch her eyes dart back and forth for a moment before she speaks up again. My advice? Never show the association your full hand. What is your mission this week? I pause, startled by her sudden seriousness. It was to kill the behemoth, the 20th floor boss. Bree keeps walking forward in silence for a moment. Her light footsteps echo on the hard floor as passers-by turn their heads to watch her strut through the black market. Sometimes I forget she's somewhat of a celebrity around here, though I'm still not completely sure why. Now isn't the time to ask either. She finally turns back to me and responds. Do you think you can do it? I smirk. Of course, I think I'll be able to climb even further. This is just the first stop. Again, Bree speeds up her pace and doesn't respond for a few seconds. Then her voice rings out in my ears. Fail your mission. She turns back to me. It's best not to get the expectations of the director too high. The more he likes you, the worse off you'll be in the end. All of the regional directors are just out to make the association more money. In the end, nothing else. They care about power and profit, not you. She lets out a long exhale as we continue even further down the long undergone hallway. I gulp, thinking about her words carefully. Another 10 seconds pass before I respond. If I fail, then how will I get more hard missions? The only reason I signed with the association was to get stronger. I want to prove to the director and everyone else in there that I'm not just some newbie elite recruit they can push around. She sighs, responding in a low tone while turning toward one of the small shops up ahead. Unfortunately, you are. No one likes a show-off either. Defeating the lower floor boss on your first week of elite training is going to turn some heads. Only nobles have enough time and money to train their youth to be that proficient in mana control at such a young age. I stare at Bree blankly as this truth begins to hit me all at once. She continues, I assume you didn't show Brutus your full skill list. If you did, they'd surely have a much tighter leash on you. It would take 4 more days to safely make your way up to the 19th floor and back. That would dash. Yup, I get it. You're right. I need to be more careful. I stare at the ground, biting my bottom lip and thinking about the new predicament I've gotten myself into. She's completely right. I've consumed almost 5,000 gold worth of mana in the last few weeks of real-world time. Although it was free to me, that's a fortune even for the lifetime savings of a seasoned C-Class Association hunter. It would be near impossible for a 20-year-old that just awakened months ago to run through that much MP without a special unknown skill. Even if I had the money, normal people can't absorb mana like I can. Thanks to my plundering and self-regeneration abilities, I can train many times longer, and my perception skill along with my elemental abilities allow me to train much more efficiently. Not to mention my contract with a dragon. Being able to dive in and out of hyperbolic training chambers is a perk I'm sure many do not have. Probably none. Sometimes I forget how special my abilities really are. I gulp, shaking myself out of it, and seeing Bree talk to a store vendor. We've come to a halt. A short and skinny old man speaks up. He's sitting on a small wooden crate in front of a heavy iron door. There's an assortment of magical trinkets in front of him, but I can only assume this isn't his real business. Oh, Ms. Brianna, long time no see. You're always welcome here. Bree smiles. Good to see you again too, Silas. She turns, pointing at me. The bald-headed merchant stands up and bows before walking over to the door. Certainly, I never forget a face. With a light metal clicking sound, the heavy door swings open to reveal a narrow hallway in front of us that goes deep into the side wall of the black market. It's dimly lit, and there isn't a single vendor or person in sight. It's empty. Have a good hunt, you too. Bree starts walking forward and I follow after her with a shrug. The door closes behind us with another click moments later. Our footsteps are the only sounds in this narrow passage. About 30 meters or so in front of us there's an opening that shines with a dim blue light. Is that what I think it is? I squint, trying to make out exactly what's back there, but it's too dark. All I can do right now is follow Bree and find out once we make it to the end. About 20 seconds of silence pass. Then my assumptions are confirmed to be true. We walk through the opening and I look around me to see a wide-open dome-shaped cavern. The ceiling is high and the air is damp. There are 3 large bright blue spinning portals in front of us just waiting to be jumped through. I whisper under my breath, "Underground dungeons." I stare, eager to hop inside one of them. Bree speaks up as she points to the portals. "These 2 here on the left, they're E-class dungeons. This one on your right side is a high D-class, possibly a C. Whichever you chose, have fun, it's none of my business." I nod as she continues. "There are plenty more of these scattered throughout the underground market. They're all pretty stable. They've been here for decades." I turn my head toward the higher D-class portal. She grins, then turns to walk away. "Always a pleasure, Jay. I have a feeling I'll be seeing you soon again, so, until next time." With a wave, and the echo of disappearing footsteps, Bree walks back down the narrow tunnel behind me. I respond as she leaves. "Thanks. Appreciate it. You're right. I'll see you soon." Without another thought, I reach into my item storage and pull out my blood-bonded armor. It tightens around my body, and I let MP flow into the set as I jump through the spinning blue portal. The second I enter the dungeon, I take in the Rocky Mountain environment to set a dungeon walker point here for later. Fractions of a second later, I teleport away. I transport myself in front of the large stone arching entrance of the abandoned courtyard on the 20th floor. Chapter 178. Instantly, I teleport back in front of the stone archway that leads to the open courtyard in front of the castle. Before stepping forward, I open up my item storage to grab my sword and let Ember fly free. He flaps his wings as I grip the already glowing red blade. We both burst into flames. I allow my MP stores to be drained by both my sword and armor as I feel my body surge with power. It feels like excess mana is seeping out of my pores. I feel great. Usually I'd be craving mana at a time like this, even if my MP bar was completely full. For some reason, this time after stepping out of the Titan's domain, while I'm using my skills and my bar is above halfway full, I feel oddly satiated. I grin, stepping through the high arching entrance. The moment both Ember and I reach the halfway point to the castle wall, the massive iron door begins to scrape the floor as it slowly opens again. The familiar glimmer of silver armor peeks out before 24 knights march in a single file line toward us. I grin, gripping my blade while crackling with flames. The first battle begins. Like clockwork, one of the knights standing in line breaks formation and begins running at me with its long silver sword ready to strike. I use appraisal to double-check its stats. LV 430. Active items. Enchanted armor set plus 1750 defense. Enchanted long sword plus 1750 strength. Active skills. None. I run forward, charging my blade with ease. Mana flows through my body so quickly and easily now, it surprises me. In an instant, my sword has almost 600 MP stored into it. By my third step, there's already 1000. My blade glows brighter and brighter as I approach the metal soldier. I clash blades with the silver suit of armor. This time around, there's an entirely different result than my previous fight. Its sword is sliced in two the second I make contact, and its metal body follows this fate soon after. The MP from my attack hardly even leaves my blade before slicing my opponent in two. I fly by the knight, air stepping past with a grin across my face. Its sword falls to the ground, and the upper half of its armor slides off its lower legs as it tries to stay on its feet. The metal parts hit the ground with a loud clang. As I stare down the mutilated knight, realizing my new strength, its false parts begin to float up into the air. It reconnects and becomes a full silver suit of armor once again. The lines where I cut are still there, but the knight seems completely unharmed otherwise. It readies its sword and charges at me again. I grit my teeth and run at it too. I slice right through it again with a swift swing of my sword. There isn't even a hint of resistance as I cut the knight straight down the middle. This time its two halves fall to the floor with a loud clang of metal on stone. It falls into 4 parts, but reforms back into a full suit moments later as expected. This is exactly what happened last time when it fought Ember. The black-scaled dragon tore the knight to shreds, but it kept coming back. I whisper under my breath. This is fun and all, but it's going nowhere. There must be some trick here. I grit my teeth and activate my all-seeing eye while air-stepping a safe distance away and drinking an MP potion to use my perception skill on full blast. I let a gasp as everything around me becomes crystal clear. I'm hit with the intense sensation of my newly upgraded mana control-powered perception skill. It seems even my non-combat abilities have been significantly increased in proficiency from this past training session. I did double my MP consumption in a single month, but this is unreal. I gulp, slowly turning my head to take in the dungeon around me. The flowing lava below us, Ember patiently waiting behind me, the 24 knights all standing guard, and most importantly, the impossibly dense mana reading inside the castle. These stone walls act as miniature mana shields, blocking out some of the MP radiation. There's no stopping what's inside from seeping through. It's much stomper than these walls. It's definitely the behemoth. I shake my head, then focus my attention back on the silver suits of armored guards. The one I'm facing starts running at me again with its sword pointed straight ahead. I focus, using up hundreds of MP on my all-seeing eye. There has to be something. The fast-approaching guard gets close enough to be an actual threat, so I drink another potion and slash the metal warrior in half once air while air-stepping away. The mana-infused fire magic seeps out from the edges of my sword. The excess mana looks like a tight bubble around my blade. It lets out energy into the air as my refined attack is released each time. This is definitely a new phenomenon. With my charge time for a semi-powerful attack being near instant now, it seems excess mana is being wasted on every strike. Although is a minor amount, I'd like to figure out a way to conserve it at some point. I bring my focus back to the armored knight, still eyeing it up and down to find a weak point. In my eyes, it just seems like normal armor. It's covered in a very dense mana shielding, but there's no being inside. This makes no sense. None at all. I clench my jaw as it turns, charging at me again. At least I'm some sword training in. Letting attack after attack fly, I get much more used to this natural fighting style. Although it's a completely different attack, it feels like I'm actually fighting with a sword now. Before, it felt like more of a mid-range weapon firing out shots. I seem to be doing more damage at close range too. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter how much damage I do on a knight that can reform its metal body every time I cut it down. It continues to charge at me, and I continue to chug MP potions while cutting it into more and more pieces. My eyes dart across the courtyard as I push my perception skills abilities to the limit. I reach far and wide for something to focus on while toying with the metal knight. If I only knew what to look for, this would be a lot simpler. I turn my vision to the line of knights standing by near the iron door. All of their armor glows with mana shielding under my perception skill, but an odd detail catches my eye. This is new. Although the sensation of their glowing mana shields fills my vision, I get the clue of paper-thin strands of mana arching upwards from their exact location and drifting back over the castle wall. My opponent charges at me again, but I dungeon walk away completely uninterested with it at the moment. This new discovery is all that's on my mind. I drink another potion, pushing my all-seeing eye even further as I do a full in-depth scan of the area above each knight's head. The biggest smile creeps over my face as it hits me clear as day. I was definitely not imagining it. There are microscopic threads of mana coming off the helmets of each knight. The strands seem to be feeding them power from the incredibly dense source deep within the castle. I turn back to the charging silver swordsman and focus on the area above its head. At first, I can't see a thing. Then, with enough concentration, it becomes very clear. A small thread of mana, feeding it power just like the others. I run at the suit of armor with a new plan. I'll aim for the source of its power. As we near each other, its heavy metal footsteps fill my ears and the single thread of mana is the only thing I lock my eyes on. I jump in the air, propelled by wind magic, and concentrate on a full 1000 MP charged slash right at the thread. As my blade collides with the tiny strand, the knight attempts to swing its sword up at me. The loud twang of mana on mana rings out for a fraction of a second before the resistance gives way and my flaming blade releases a black fiery slash to snap the strand in two. I watch the white and pink thread dissipate into thin air the moment it's cut. The knight's long sword stops moving mid-swing and the entire armor set falls to the ground. I let out a laugh as I land to the floor on both feet with a thud, pointing my sword at the pile of metal fragments in front of me. One down. A whole lot more to go. I smirk, looking up at the line of knights guarding the castle door. The second words leave my mouth. 3 of them begin to charge at me without a moment of hesitation. The battle is on. Chapter 179. I run past the pile of scrap metal on the floor that happened to be my last opponent and get ready to face off against the 3 suits of armor running my way. With my all-seeing eye still active and burning MP like a furnace, the thin strands of mana above their heads look like glowing targets begging to be hit. Using my wind magic to propel each footstep forward, I make cracks in the stone tiles below my feet as I rocket at the approaching knights. They swing their blades, but I jump in the air and dodge the slow-moving silver swords with ease. My weapon is covered in mana, seeping out from its already MP-saturated core. Dark red trails of mana-imbued fire magic leave my sword as it glides through the air, hitting each strand one by one as I fly over the knights below. There's a light buzzing sound on impact, followed by a click as each strand breaks, then the clang of metal armor on the stone courtyard floor. All 3 of them fall to the ground before I even land myself. I smirk, looking up at the long line of knights that all turn their heads to me in synchronicity. All of them lift their swords and charge in a predictable formation. I let out a laugh as fire surrounds me and I jump back into battle while drinking another MP potion and dungeon walking into the middle of a sea of knights. With a combination of air steps and dungeon walks, I zip around the courtyard as the knights pointlessly swing their swords. My speed and agility outmatch them, and all it takes is a single precise strike to their power source to defeat them completely. Just 30 seconds and 4 MP potions later, I'm standing on a pile of swords and armor without a trace of mana in sight. The strands of thin energy fade away into the dungeon air. I raise my sword up at the iron gate of the castle. Is that all you got? I chuckle, letting my flames die down and deactivating my stat-boosting skills to take a look at the scene before me. Letting out a sigh, my link with Ember opens and the dragon speaks up before I can get a word in. Very good work, Master. You've improved a lot since our last battle. I can tell you're still holding back. I bend down to examine the armor on the ground with a smirk before replying. Yeah. I can't wait to go all out. Aside from the first knight I faced, all of these new armor pieces and swords are basically untouched. There isn't a scratch on them. I walk around the courtyard examining each item, waiting for them to dissolve into the dungeon floor. This is how regular mobs act once defeated. But I guess these aren't regular mobs. Come to think of it, I didn't even gain a single level form defeating any of these knights. They're all level 430, right? What's going on here? I scratch my chin, continuing to walk around the abandoned courtyard waiting for something to happen. Nothing does. Ember speaks up through our link. This armor won't dissolve if that's what you're waiting for. It's non-native dungeon armor, most likely from outside this labyrinth. I look up, slightly puzzled. Non-native dungeon armor? Like hunter's armor. Ember nods. It looks like it. It could be from an armed guard unit or a noble family's private army. There are fewer knights here than last time. The 2 we damaged in our previous fight aren't here. My eyes dart back and forth. Then I kneel down to feel the cold hard metal of one of the fallen knights curiously. I use appraisal. Enchanted armor set plus 1750 defense. Enchanted long sword plus 1750 strength. Looks like we just ran into a gold mine of new gear. With money signs practically covering my eyes, I begin opening my item storage and collecting all of the fallen armor scattered around my feet. At first glance, while fighting these knights, it seemed to be shiny, pristine gear. Now that I'm getting up close and personal with each one, I see that there are small scratches and dents on some of the pieces. The stat boosts on this gear are much higher than anything I own. Unfortunately, when I try imbuing mana into the sword and armor set, nothing happens. As expected of normal gear, they aren't even capable of producing mana shields like my armor or MP imbued attacks like my sword. Whatever the source of their power was before, it gave these items some properties I can't seem to figure out. So interesting. I placed 26 full suits of armor and 26 swords into my item storage while leaving the one that I sliced to pieces behind. Bree was right. I'll be seeing her sooner than I thought. This time I'll be making some profit. I smirk, turning back to the large iron door and bursting into flames. It's fine to get to the real fight. Come on, Ember. How about you open up that door for us? The black-scaled dragon grins, then flaps his wings to fly about 10 meters up in the air. With a single fiery blow, dark flames collide with the castle wall and iron door, blasting it off its hinges and throwing stone rubble high up into the air. The dust clears to show a massive gaping hole. The attack busted through multiple walls deep into the castle. I let out a laugh, running forward to check out the scene. With my sword flaming by my side, I peer into the destroyed castle entrance. Fragments of the large metal door are scattered about and flames crackle on the piles of stone and debris from the blast. Ember's advanced fire magic doesn't go out very easily, just like mine. I smirk, then take a step into the massive stone structure. The moment my foot hits the ground, a shiver makes its way up my spine and I activate all my stat-boosting skills along with a view of flames out of instinct. The dense presence of a malicious beast lurking at the back of the castle feels like it's staring me straight in the face. I hold my breath and freeze. Then it's gone. My all-seeing eye picks up the twisting and fading presence that crawled up my back moments ago. It's in the form of one of the hair-thin mana strands like the ones connected to the knights. It retreats down a dark hallway and disappears around a corner. I gulp. It senses us. Whatever is back there, it knows we're here already. Ember responds. Well, we did just knock down its front door without even ringing a bell. I chuckle at his response but grit my teeth and continue trying to expand the range of my perception skill. That feeling just a moment ago, I've never felt anything like it. It's like a monster's mana presence was right in front of me. Then it was gone. It's almost like my intimidation skill but in a physical form. I take a deep breath in and out, then speak to Ember through our link. Come on, let's go. We begin to walk down the rubble-filled empty hallways, much more cautiously than our entrance. I scout out the surroundings, making a mental note of every stone-walled room we pass full of wooden crates and broken armor. Some corridors are thin and dimly lit while others arch upwards and let in natural light through windows or even open ceilings. The massive castle twists and turns as Ember and I make our way through. The sensation of that beastly presence that welcomed me here keeps getting further and further away. I know it's near, but I can't seem to get any closer. I drink another MP potion and try to raise my perception of the surrounding area again. The deeper we walk, the more these walls around me keep giving off a mana reading that blurs my mental vision. They're making too much noise. The more I concentrate, the more the humming and fine grid-like patterns of the mana-shielded walls become the main focus in my head. It's almost like the presence of whatever is here is just watching me from afar and hiding behind the comfort of its maze-like castle. I grit my teeth and point at the surrounding walls. Take them out, everything. I need to focus on something other than these walls. Ember nods. As you wish. The black dragon glows red, shielding my head with his wings and taking out the surrounding walls and ceiling while I continue to let my perception skill map out my surroundings. The immediate fall of these skill-dampening stones finally gives me a target to lock onto. I sense that dense mana presence again, and won't let it get away from me this time around. I grin, turning to my right side and peering through a fiery hole in the wall that Ember just created. Dust, fire, rubble, and smoke fill the air, but my all-seeing eye locks onto dense mana readings with 4 paper-thin strands leading to the back side of the castle. This way. I dive through the fiery mess and order Ember to continue breaking through walls as I concentrate on the mana-dense beings that show up on my radar. We make our way further and further into the castle, paying no mind to its original layout and busting through wall after wall. Almost there. A full minute of wall demolition and following the faint sense of mana strands pass before I get close to finding what I'm looking for. The sound of metal footsteps clanging on the stone-tiled floor nearby sounds like music to my ears. Found you! Ember blasts through a final wall, revealing a wide-open entrance hall along with the enemies I've been tracking. Orange and yellow stained glass windows cover the arching ceiling, letting light in from above to reveal 4 suits of silver armor pointing their shields and swords at us ready for a fight. I use Inspect and Appraisal along with my all-seeing eye. LV. 440. Active items. Enchanted Armor Set plus 1,750 defense. Enchanted Heavy Shield plus 1,750 defense. Enchanted Long Sword plus 1,750 strength. Active skills. None. What a surprise! Their gear is almost exactly the same as the knights I faced before, plus the shields of course. The differentiating factor is the density of the mana threads coming off of their helmets. It hardly takes any concentration to see the dense strands that connect these guards to the looming presence just a single room away. Less than 30 meters back, at the end of this final hallway, another large iron door is shut, keeping what can only be the behemoth trapped behind it. All 4 of the strands connect to a pool of mana with a dark red murderous aura putting out an intensity unlike anything I've ever sensed before. It's the exact same presence I felt when I entered this castle. It's time for me to finally see this beast face to face. Chapter 180. I stare down at the 4 knights in shining armor before me. They each carry heavy shields and long silver swords. The hum of mana fills the air as I track their power sources back to the ominous iron door at the backside of the entrance hall. It's less than 30 meters away, and that familiar evil red aura seeps out from beneath the crack and from its hinges. The behemoth is back there. All around me there's fallen rubble. Fire creeps up the walls, and smoke begins to fill the room. There are piles of wooden crates and fragments of used armor lining the wide hallways of the entrance hall on all sides. Ember's fire magic begins to spread further and further down the edges of the room, shedding more light upon the performance that is about to commence. Using my all-seeing eye, the strands of mana above the knights' heads are as clear as day. Their shields and armor give off a similar buzz, and I can pick up the presence of mana shielding around their metal bodies. It's thick, thicker than the guards' shielding in the courtyard, possibly twice as dense. Although its shielding doesn't matter much, all I really have to aim for are the strands above their heads. I smirk, gripping my sword while focused on the back of the room. This should be easy enough. One of the knights steps forward as I begin to run its way. I hear heavy metal footsteps as it draws near, holding its shield in a perfect defensive position while readying its blade. Well, perfect, it's a perfect defensive position if an attacker were aiming at its body. I leap upwards, air-stepping to gain speed and altitude with my eyes and glowing sword locked on the strand above its silver helmet. The mindless metal suit of armor continues lunging forward as I make contact with the thin white thread of energy. A light buzz, followed by a snapping sound, leads to the loud clang of armor on the cold stone floor. I hit the floor with a thud, landing on both feet and still holding my fully charged blade ready for more. I hardly had to let out any MP to sever its ties with the aura behind that door. There was a bit more resistance than the guards outside, but it still broke with ease. Like clockwork, the second Silver Knight comes running at me with its sword at the ready. This time around, it's holding the heavy metal shield at a higher angle. If I were aiming for its normal vital points, holding the shield up like this would be pointless. I run at the guard with a puzzled, yet curious look on my face. While jumping into the air, I lock my eyes on its mana thread. The thin white strand is wide out in the open, calling for my blade to slice it in half. As I swing my sword, a wide grin creeps across my face while watching the Silver Knight's next move. The suit of armor raises its shield, putting it in between my incoming sword and its only weak point, the thread. I smirk, whispering under my breath as I continue to launch my attack. They're learning. I follow through, propelling myself at the knight with air steps, increasing my speed and bursting into a fiery ball of flames. Like a hot knife through butter, my blade glides through the shield of the knight, attempting to block my attack. There's a loud buzz, followed by my sword stopping for a moment in midair. I'm forced to release the full attack I've been holding back inside the blade. Following through with my swing, the thin blade crescent of fire leaves my sword, snapping the mana thread the moment my black fire makes contact. I fall to the ground, landing on my feet with a thud. My boots crack the stone-tiled floor while I watch the armor set fall to the ground lifeless and empty. I stare down at my weapon, questioning myself for a moment. Did I not use a full charge? Confused, I reach into my item storage to grab another MP potion while looking up at the 2 remaining knights. As the bottle of pink liquid hits my lips, I feel a pulsing sensation of that same crimson aura fill my mind and body. The red looming energy at the back of the room glows brighter and it seeps out of the door even further. I watch the 2 strands of mana connected to armored knights glow brighter as the aura expands. I gulp, watching everything unfold with my all-seeing eye taking in the fine details of the entire scene. The main shielding around the duo of remaining knights gets stronger, much stronger. Almost like all of the excess energy from the 2 suits of armor that fell is now being used for the knights in front of me. I grit my teeth, then throw the empty glass bottle of MP potion to the floor, and run forward gripping my glowing sword. One of the armed guards turns toward me and readies its shield just like the previous knight did. Instead of guarding its body, it's guarding the thin strand of mana that keeps it in the fight. I jump in the air, emulating my last attack. The knight does the same. It raises its shield up high in the air, tracking my momentum as I lock onto its power source even through the dense shielding that covers all of its gear. I bring my red glowing sword covered in a dense black aura down upon its shield. The strand of mana is no more than a few centimeters behind its thick layer of mana shielding. To my surprise, on impact, there's a dim flash of white light. My sword faces a bit of resentence while pushing down on the shield. I charged nearly 1,000 MP into the blade, yet this guard is holding off my deadly blow. I grit my teeth and push down harder, being forced to let out the crescent of fire from deep within my blade again. Once released, the white light flashes brighter, and an explosion of fire and metal fragments fills the room. The shielding gives way on impact, and I follow through to let my energy attack slice through its thread. Again, there's a much greater resistance than the previous night. After a fraction of a second of pause, there's a metallic twang. It's followed by the snapping sound of a tight thread, then the clang of metal armor on the floor. I let out a laugh as I hit the stone flooring again and watched the boring fragments of Metal Knight hit the floor beside me. Staring across the entrance hall at my final enemy, I drink another MP potion and point my blade at the silver suit of armor standing in front of the red glowing iron door. You're all that's left. Show me what you've got. The murderous red aura from behind the door pulses again, sending shivers down my spine out of instinct. I watch it seep further out of the doorway and flow into the Silver Knight's metal body. The mana shielding on its armor glows with the same red aura that comes from behind the door. The strand above its head becomes thicker and much more mana-dense. It lifts its shield and sword, taking one step forward at me. I plant my feet and do the same, reactivating all of my skills, charging my sword up with 1,000 MP in just a few seconds, and grinning ear to ear, I run at the metal monster before me. Charges back. The bloodlust coming off its armor is sickening, but I know it's not the knight. Whatever is controlling these suits of armor from afar is the real monster. I'll face it soon. My boots crack the stone floor with each step as I use wind magic to increase my speed. The knight's heavy boots send metallic echoes throughout the entrance hall. I focus on it, and it focuses on me. My sword glows by my side as I run while its armor slowly becomes covered in the murderous red aura behind that iron door. We get closer and closer until we finally collide. I aim for the strand above its head, jumping in the air and swinging my blade. The knight does not change its strategy in the slightest. It raises its heavy silver shield and covers its weak point while aiming to strike me with its sword. Not wanting to take any chances, I release all the MP in my blade at once. My jet black crescent of fire collides with its heavy metal shield. A dense aura of crimson mana shielding covers it from head to toe. On impact, the orange and yellow windows above us shatter into a million pieces, showering the room in broken glimmering fragments of glass. The ear-piercing metallic twang of our mana-on-mana collision echoes through the long corridor. The knight stands in place as my black aura clashes with its red shield. I think quickly, darting my eyes back and forth, then begin to plunder its MP at once. We're stuck at a standstill. My attack won't budge an inch, and it can't move its shield because its lifeline is right behind it. Its red aura seeps into my body, letting me charge my blade with more and more of its own MP. The knight doesn't move at all, keeping a steady shield against my blade. As it begins to raise its own sword, attempting to get in a cheap strike, something odd happens. It retreats before even throwing an attack. The moment my plundering ability activates, this knight has lost its strength. I watch the red aura around the knight begin to fall back. I'm absorbing some of its energy, but the majority of it is creeping back behind the ominous iron door. I don't really care why it's retreating. I'll take full advantage of any weakness it shows. I push my sword down with more and more force, now with the black blade of fire pushing close to 1300 MP in a single strike. The dim glow of mana shielding cracking at the seams fills my vision, and I let out a yell. Channeling even more mana into my blade as the knight's defenses get weaker and weaker, the white light that signifies the end of our battle begins to glow. Moments later, an eruption of dark flames fills the room as my attack bursts through its final layer of shielding and snaps the thread above its head in two. The black blade of fire follows through and heads straight at the iron door behind the knight. With my attack already behind, disrupted by the slicing of armor and dense thread, it collides with the metal door and explodes into a fiery display on impact. The walls in front of me crumble to pieces. Fragments of glass still fall from the ceiling as the stone and iron fly in all directions, creating a chaotic whirlwind of debris. I hear Ember swoop in from behind me as I watch the final silver knight collapse to the floor. Its dense thread of mana dissipates into thin air. I air-step up to jump on the dragon's back as he approaches from behind me, and we both burst into an eruption of our own flames. Ember's dense mana shielding acts as a force field to block out glass and stone as it falls down on us from above. Forward. I need to see what's behind that wall. Without missing a beat, Ember and I fly straight through the fiery entrance that leads to the final room. We dive deep into the murderous red aura I've been searching for this whole time.